All right. So yeah, if everyone wants to start, take their seats. We're about to start imminently. Now, bear with me. I did have the teleprompter all set up, but I'm going to use the old-fashioned method. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'll see if I can find it. Got it here. Good evening and welcome to Clarence Media's Candidate Q&A live forum here at Market Square in beautiful Grafton, where we'll be grilling the Clarence Valley Council candidates to ensure you make an informed vote at the local government polls on Saturday, December the 4th, and I'm your host, Bill North. First, I'd like to acknowledge the people of Bundjalung, Gumbungir and Yagal, the three nations within the boundaries of the Clarence Valley Council. This event is taking place on Bundjalung land, and I pay my respects to elders past, present and future. I'd like to ask the candidates to take their seats. Thank you. And as they get themselves settled, some thank yous to our major sponsors, Liberty Service Station South Grafton and Loving Life FM, as well as DM Timber Flooring and Yamba Tiles and Lights for their support of this event. Welcome to the members of our live audience here at Market Square. Special shout out to the South Grafton Progress Association who've made this their monthly meeting. Welcome to everyone else, everyone watching at home on the live stream. And yeah, obviously many of you didn't come out down this evening because of the weather, but trust me, it's there's no rain about right now, so it's not too late, come on down. But I hope you find the evening useful and enjoyable. If you are online, we'd love you to have your say via the conversation thread on the live stream, or you can go to the Clarence Media Facebook page, and I'll be checking the messages throughout the evening. If you're having issues accessing the website, you can see us on YouTube. I've shared that link on the Facebook page. So for the first time ever, through this live stream, potentially every single person in the Clarence Valley can now see exactly who their candidates are and make an informed decision at the polls. So welcome and thank you to the candidates who have taken their time out of their busy schedules to join us this evening. We have had an incredible response with 14 of the 16 candidates here with us. Dr Ian Tiley, the candidate who boasts by far the most experience in local government of the candidates, sends his apologies. He has quite a valid excuse. He's in Armidale in the midst of his final week as Mayor of Armidale Regional Council. Meanwhile, Jeff Fuller is a late apology due to work commitments. But here with us, starting from over on this side, we have Grafton podiatrist Don Scott, Palmer's Channel resident and former Maclean Shire councillor Bill Day, our youngest candidate, Grafton's Ash Gibbons, current councillor and former Daily Examiner editor, Yamba's Peter Ellum, owner of Ice Cream in Grafton and former Jacaranda Festival president Jeff Smith, South Grafton real estate agent Alison Waits, current councillor of the Greens, Cootes Crossing's Greg Clancy, to my left, the longest serving of the current councillors seeking re-election, Karen Toms, South Grafton maths teacher Peter Johnston, Coldstream Gallery owner in Almara, Steve Pickering, current councillor and organiser of the Grafton Twilight Markets, which are on here this evening, Yamba's Deborah Novak, former Grafton Chamber of Commerce President Phil Belletti, well-travelled Maclean resident Warren Lang, and Maclean designer Peter Hansen. Thank you all for your decisions to seek election to represent your community. While it is no doubt a fulfilling experience, it is also no doubt a terribly challenging one and sometimes thankless, and would certainly not have been a decision any of you would have taken lightly. Before we get started, I will call on a man who needs no introduction, but for a change he's going to get one. Clarence River Cricket Association Grafton District Services Club 3rd grade major premier, Cootes Crossing gloveman, and much to my ire, 2020-21 wicketkeeper of the year for Cootes Crossing. Of course, he's one of the 5 outgoing councillors as well, Richie Williamson. If he can join me. As the longest serving mayor and one of the longest serving councillors of Clarence Valley Council, I thought it would be appropriate to invite Councillor Williamson to share some advice to the new candidates on what to expect and how he thinks things should be going forward, taken forward. Our guests here have got some living up to do. Richie, during his 8-year tenure as mayor, he helped instigate the Mayor's 11 versus President's 11 cricket match at Elm Oval.
Which we never lost.
And I'd love to see that reinstated.
Which we never lost.
So, padding up for Cootes again this year, mate?
Yeah, I will be, Bill. I sure will, if we ever get a start, that is.
Yeah, well, I didn't see you there at the trial game on Saturday.
Oh, look, trials, probably not my thing. Probably not my thing.
You've been part of Clarence Valley Council since around the time of amalgamation.
Yep.
Ian Tiley was your mayor at one stage.
Yep.
What was the highlight for you?
I don't know if you could actually put a single highlight on anything. I think there are a number of achievements that the current council and the former councils have been working to achieve, and that's long-term sustainability. And I think we're all but there. It's a photo finish, and I hope the next term of council will get there, and I think they will. It has not been easy. For example, my colleagues whom served on the council will recall the big issue at the last election was a special rate variation, and there were not too many meet the candidate evenings that weren't absolutely chock-a-block. So it's a bit different this year, and I guess COVID's got a lot to do with that. But I think that's, one of the long-term, goals that this council has almost achieved. It really is a photo finish, honestly, and the next council, I'm sure, will be able to achieve that. I think the infrastructure that former councils have been able to deliver for our community, and that's always a big ticket item for the residents. They want to see the best possible infrastructure delivered for them, always. And I think that's been something that's been a real highlight. If I could highlight a few of them, I guess the new Grafton Library, the upgrade to the Maclean waterfront. We'll soon see the Grafton waterfront precinct plan come to fruition. And I guess more recently, the long-term water supply of the Nimboida system, is something that this council should be very proud of, because it hasn't been easy, nor cheap, I have to say.
It's been a long process. The last term, a 5.5-year marathon through drought, fires, storms, flood, COVID and lockdowns.
Yep.
I don't envy you guys right now. Are you glad it's over?
No, yes and no. What you've just mentioned there, I think, is when local government shines the best, frankly, in times of crisis and in times of natural disaster. And we did see the worst natural disaster we've ever seen in those bushfires. They were just absolutely terrible. And I have to say, from where I sat in the council, I think Clarence Valley Council did really look after its residents and ratepayers, the best of any council that was affected by those fires. So I think in terms of natural disasters, I think that's when local government shines the best and the longest, frankly. I think they do a good job. There's a lot of really responsible officers of council that go over and above to serve and protect their community in those kinds of situations.
Right. So the next term, it's only a 2.5-year term coming up.
You're welcome.
So what does the new council need to do in that time?
Oh, look, that's going to be a matter for the new council. I mean, they'll set their priorities as a group. They'll work through the community strategic plan, and that's the document that will guide the council for the 2 and a bit years that they're there. And I'm sure there'll be changes. There's absolutely no doubt there'll be a new council. They're fully entitled to bring in what the group, by resolution, decide is the best for them. So, look, I just hope that they continue on the long-term financial sustainability of Clarence Valley Council. Look, we're not, and I believe that this council's not handing the new council a hospital pass. They've done the hard yards, and it wasn't easy. I'm sure my colleagues who are standing for re-election will cast their mind back to the first couple of meetings after the election. It was tough going, it really was. But collectively, they came to a decision to move forward, and since then, I think the hard yards have really been done. We don't want to be like other councils that are, Lismore City Council's, not the best shape. Armidale City Council is under an improvement order by the government, and they've got a financial controller in place. I mean, we don't want that. We don't want that.
So for all the new challenges, there are 10 candidates here who have not previously been elected members of local government. 2 are seeking to re-enter a familiar environment in a very evolved era. What's your advice to those people?
I think, my advice is, and I think you hit it nail on the head with all the due respect, it is a different world for local government now to what it was previously, but I'm sure those 2 candidates seeking to be re-elected will have no trouble in adapting. So if they're elected, I wish them both all the best. The biggest challenge as an elected member, I think anyway, is a balance. Balancing a community want or expectation versus an organisation that may not be even lawfully able to do what the community expect them to do. Getting that balance is difficult. It is frustrating at times, but when you do find the balance, it's extremely rewarding.
Okay. And to the 4 current councillors seeking re-election, Peter Ellum, Karen Toms, Greg Clancy and Deborah Novak, anything for those guys?
Oh, look, I wish them well. They have nothing but my respect. They have nothing but my well wishes for the upcoming election. And if I would cast our minds back to those first probably 6 meetings of this term, I don't want to talk on behalf of anyone else, but they were pretty rough. They were rough and tumble. There was, the landing gear was down, and we were coming in for a crash and burn there for a little bit. But we all got around the table. We worked, I think, collectively as a team. Not everyone always gets what everyone personally wants. If you can find a give and take situation, as we did in those very, very early meetings, the rest should follow.
All right. And finally, while I've got you in the hot seat, don't worry, I've saved the tough questions for everyone else here in this room. But your father was the last mayor of Pristine Waters Shire.
Yeah, they sacked him.
Governance is in your blood.
They sacked him.
So what's next for Richie Williamson? Any truth to the tilt at the national seat of Clarence or even the feds in a couple of months' time?
No, definitely not the feds in a couple of months' time. I think Kevin Hogan... Kevin's already pre-selected, so he'll definitely be the Nationals candidate for whenever the state election is.
Federal?
The federal election, I beg your pardon. Look, there's a local government election, there's a federal election. If Chris Reid contests the seat, I won't be. But if he doesn't, it's something that's always interested me, and I probably will ever go. But you know, that's a matter for Chris, and I haven't had a discussion with him about what his future might hold. He could very well stand again. If he does, you'll have my support and well wishes.
Okay, all right. Well, thanks very much for your time, Richie, and all the best for the future, mate.
Thanks, Bill, and good luck to each and every one of you. It's a challenge, but I'm sure you'll enjoy your short term. You're welcome on Clarence Valley Council.
And on behalf of thank you, Richie.
Thanks, mate.
And on behalf of the Clarence Valley community, I'd just like to say thank you to all the departing councillors for their time serving our community. Mayor Jim Simmons, Deputy Mayor Jason Kingsley, Councillor Williamson, Councillor Andrew Baker and Councillor Arthur Lysart. And Councillor Baker sends his apologies tonight. So now let's get into the candidates Q&A live forum and find out who's going to win your vote. A show of hands, for a show of hands to the live audience, who knows they're voting for? So hopefully tonight's forum will get you closer to that decision, and we'll see a few more hands raised at the end of the night. As we alluded to earlier, only 4 of the current 9 councillors are standing for re-election, so it will be a fresh change, and the composition of that change is up to you. In the lead up to this event, we've sourced a lot of questions from people directly to our website and also various community pages on social media who are very engaged in this particular election, some of whom are no doubt watching tonight and some part of our live audience. We have assembled a collection of questions that we think are going to sway the community's vote. And for our live audience, there will be opportunities later in the evening to raise your questions. And please, I know a lot of people don't have the internet or don't use it very much. But this live stream will still be available on our website up until election day, so I really encourage you to play it back for those people. And of course, we've also got the previously recorded 10-minute interviews with every single one of these candidates up on our website as well. Don, I promise we'll get to you. And the format, well, we're hoping Clarence Media's Candidates Q&A live forum will play out a little differently to the classic town hall style speech fest. Reaching those who don't want to sift through the jargon and just want to find out each of the names on the ballot paper, who they are and what they stand for. All the candidates have been briefed on the structure, and on the whole I think everyone, while maybe a little daunted, will embrace it, and it should make for quite an entertaining evening, I think. Yes, we are looking for short, sharp answers. So first off, one question will be directed at each candidate on a previously selected topic of their choice, selected in random order from these cue cards. They will have the opportunity to speak for 1 minute, and for each question up to 2 more candidates will be given a minute response, perhaps a third if it seems necessary. Who speaks will be determined by me based on who raises their hands first. After the candidates' questions, there will be some hot topics, on which up to 4 candidates will be able to speak for up to a minute each. After that, we'll throw it out to our live audience, who can direct candidates specifically to candidates if they wish, or just have them open to everybody. Remember, we're time limited. The candidates can see a screen in front of us here, which will count down the clock each time, so they'll be able to gauge how they're going for time. I will try to give some leniency, but please beware that my audio man, my audio assistant Jared, has the power to switch off your microphone at a moment's notice. Persistent breaches of the time limit will be taken into consideration when selecting candidates to speak, because we want to make it fair for everybody. And I will be also monitoring how many times each candidate does speak, so if it's the same candidates over and over, I might ask someone else, give someone else the opportunity. To the candidates, please don't see the time limit as a challenge to see how many words you can fit into a minute, but rather try to remain clear and calm, and I think that will be the key to winning the vote of the Clarence Valley residents here tonight and tuning in. Part of the role of our leaders are that they should be spokespeople for our community, so short, sharp and to the point. We're looking forward to seeing what unfolds. Hopefully it doesn't descend into chaos. We'll try to keep things in order, and I hope you all enjoy the show. All right. So the first question, good one to start with. Bill Day, why does Clarence Valley Council need reform?
I'm not sure, is that working?
Yep.
Yep, okay. Thank you for calling me first. Your local council is meant to be the closest form of government to local people. You expect your council staff and councillors to be open, to be helpful, to be honest, to be transparent and accountable. But Clarence Valley Council is a closed shop. It's the most secretive local council in my lifetime. Council senior staff refuse to answer simple questions from local residents. I know, I'm one that has met that brick wall. Council senior staff also refuse to answer simple questions from councillors. When my questions have been denied, I've tried to get a councillor to ask those questions. Brick wall again. Residents who persevere with questions get banned from all council buildings and from communicating with all council staff. The New South Wales Information and Privacy Commission has conducted 2 major investigations into
wrap it up if you can. Finish your point.
Into Clarence Valley Council and released scathing reports. No local council in our history has been so condemned. Clarence Valley Council is way overdue for reform.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Would any... so Karen Toms would like to respond.
Thank you, Bill. And to you, Bill, I don't agree with you 100%. There are some points in there, and of course there are people like yourself who've been treated very badly, and for that I apologise to you, despite it having nothing to do with me. I do feel I am a little responsible, being one of the councillors and the governing body, but it's operational and you can't actually direct that. But in saying that, our customer service staff, I believe, are excellent. They fielded over 66,000 calls and they have a 98.1% excellent service satisfaction. So whilst there are some people who have been treated badly, and it upsets me greatly and I want to change that, it's not acceptable. I think you're making it more of an issue than it is in terms of the entire population of this valley, which is 52,000 people. Not everybody is disgruntled.
Great. Thank you, Karen. Anyone else want to speak on that topic? Okay, moving on. Next one. Peter Johnson. How will you seek to meet the needs of young people of the Clarence Valley?
Well, hello, Clarence Valley. As many of you will know, I've been a teacher for 28 years and I've spent a lot of time with young people. And first of all, I think the main thing is to listen. And I plan to go to every high school with the principal's permission to speak to the young people and ask what they really do want. But things I know that we should be doing. We should be improving our footpaths. We should be improving our cycle paths so that people can cycle safely to and from school, or cycle safely around the area. So that's in all of the big towns, and perhaps even between the towns as well. Something I'm really excited about that I'd like to do in January is something I'm going to call Clarence Valley Get Active. We're coming to the end of COVID, and it's now a time of hope. And what I'm planning to do is get all of the clubs and societies, the sporting organisations, the voluntary organisations, to come together, perhaps here and in Maclean, and invite the people of Grafton Maclean to come and to join up those clubs so we can get going again after COVID. It's a time of hope. There's so much more I'd like to say, but I'm out of time.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for sticking to the guidelines there. Anyone like to respond to Peter? Yes, Greg Clancy.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. Just letting Peter know that I moved a NOM, which is a notice of motion. You'll all get to know about NOMs regarding cycle paths recently, well, a few months back now, and that came from the community of cyclists who are really concerned about where the bike tracks, cycleways stop, particularly near the new bridge. We also, part of that motion was to review the policy on cycle paths and access. So there's already some work done there, but there's certainly space for more work if Peter is on council. Thank you.
Yep, and Steve Pickering.
I would just like to say it's really important that we engage with younger people in our community. One of the things I do through my work with the Coldstream Gallery is we promote younger artists' creativity. We sponsor art workshops. And also with the Lantern Festival, which I'm organising with Events Delivered in Elmara, we've already engaged with our 3 local schools. It's really important that we get the kids active and doing things, and that's something that I find as something that's really important to me, and I've been focusing on it since I moved to the Clarence Valley. So thank you.
Excellent. And now Deborah Novak.
Thank you. I would like to see in the next elected term, whether I'm elected or not, is our council actually invite all the high schools to bring any of their students who are interested in government or the 3 tiers of government to our council meetings, whether it's the committee or the full council meeting, encourage them to participate in contributing to the community strategic plan. That way we actually get it in writing what their needs are.
Great. All right, well, thank you. We'll move on to the next question. Warren Lang. Do you think Clarence Valley Council functions efficiently, and what changes need to be made within council?
Good evening, Clarence Valley residents. My response is based on my own experiences as a resident of Maclean and talking to the local people. That often a good key performance indicator for a high turnover of staff will see that the council has lost engineers, planners and good environmental staff. This is left with often bad decisions being supported by other bad decisions, and which distorts the truth and is not transparent. And they often refer to the Privacy Act or similar in their responses. Look, this can be seen across most council departments, planning and environment, and in particular development applications. Okay, so 5 to 7 months for a development application is unreasonable, and it distorts or business investment alone. So there needs to be an improvement in that area there. It either complies or it doesn't comply. Okay. And that's all I have for that.
Okay, thanks, Warren. Yep. Anyone like to speak on that particular topic of council efficiency? Yep, Jeff Smith.
Yeah, look, as far as efficiencies go, parts of the council work brilliantly. Take for example, the parks and gardens. The lawn out there and the gardens are absolutely immaculate. But then saying that, the signage and some of the paint job, it just needs help. There's public toilets that are cleaned very well, and yet there is absolutely obscene graffiti that is left for months and months and months. We've had numerous tourists and visitors come through the area. They all experience this. What we want is workplace reform, almost empowering the frontline staff to take action on some of this stuff, whether it be identifying of potholes or cleaning up of gardens or paint jobs that need done. It just needs to be actioned and the people to be empowered, and I think that comes from the top and middle management of council.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. Anyone else? And Peter Johnston again.
Okay, well, I'm a mathematician and I like data analysis, and I like looking at numbers. And so efficiency is something I really would like to promote within council. I think my skills will be very useful there. I don't know if there's any of the other candidates really that have quite those same skills, and so that will be a useful addition to the team. But I'd like to benchmark our council against other councils that are similar across the state, to see the places where we're doing very well and the places where perhaps we could do better. Because the wonderful thing about efficiency is if you can make efficiency savings, you can make the money that you do have go further. More potholes can be fixed, but the same amount of money allocated. So I'd like to work on that, and as a mathematician, I think I have the right skills to do that. Thank you.
And Peter Hansen. Yeah.
Thank you. I'd like to say that graffiti is a measure of social cohesion, and it would be a lie to erase it all and present ourselves as so clean an issue. I think the potholes are much a matter of the bigger cars we're seeing all over the road and their bigger tyres and the bigger wallets that are running them, and they need to put more in on value in return in their taxes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Peter. All right, moving on to our next question. Karen Toms. Financial responsibility is something you touched on in our Q&A interview in Yamba. Explain your thoughts on council's need to be much smarter in terms of how it spends its money.
Thank you, Bill. And I just want to let everybody know I didn't put forward a question, but it's interesting you chose that one from the interview. I've wasted 5 seconds. It is important to me. The financial sustainability of our organisation is paramount. The more sustainable we can be, the better services we can give our community, like the potholes. We're certainly, like Richie Williamson said earlier, we've certainly done the hard yards and we're getting there. This year we've had an unprecedented amount of grant funding, actually 35% of the $175 million total income, 62 million. It's very difficult when we get that sort of money thrown at us to actually be able to do everything. That is a challenge in itself, so perhaps that's why the basics are being let down a little. But we're certainly on the right track, and we've got a hell of a lot of money and a lot of infrastructure coming in that we will need to look after into the future, which, my time's up. Can I go one little bit?
Finish your point.
Thank you. Which also will create challenges for us as an organisation, because, of course, when we have more infrastructure, we've already got over $2 billion worth, we have to take care of that infrastructure. So there are costs, whole-of-life costs involved there, but we are certainly better than it has been when I was first elected in 2008. So I think it's a good report card.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Firstly, we'll go to Peter Ellum.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah, thank you. We are in pretty good financial shape. We leave this term with a 2021 consolidated result, $19.319 million surplus. Karen mentioned that we have over $2 billion worth of net assets. We've also paid down debt by $34 million in this term. The good result is buoyed up by the state and federal funding that has come our way, mainly for community infrastructure, but we've actually employed or in the process of employing project managers to ensure that they're properly scoped and well executed. The new administration centre came in on budget, and again, no external borrowings, done from a strategic building reserve and internal borrowings, which will be paid back.
All right, thank you, Peter. Ash Gibbons.
Yeah, look, I just really wanted to mention that while funding and granting is a great thing for for the community as a whole, we also need to be mindful that anything that we do choose to do with that money is that we have to pay for the maintenance of that as well. So that's a huge decision that the councillors have to make moving forward, that the decisions that they make with what's going on with that money is that we can actually maintain that spending at a later date to keep that infrastructure in place.
Okay, and Bill Day.
Surely no one here has forgotten the special rate variation. The SRV that so many candidates in 2017 promised would never happen and then voted for it as soon as they were elected. They promised to spend it totally on the roads. They've certainly spent it, but not on the roads. They promised to find $8.5 million in savings. Peter was talking about savings, but they didn't provide those savings to offset the SRV, a requirement from my part and a promise to the community. But after devastating bushfires and in the middle of the greatest pandemic since the Spanish flu, they've found $8 million to spend refurbishing the council headquarters. On your way home, I ask you to drive past that extravagant monument and also count the potholes along the way.
Okay. A popular response from our live gallery here. And just finally, Greg Clancy on this point.
Yeah, thank you. Just for the record, it was a difficult time, 2016. We had this proposed 41% SRV, and I promised not to support that because it was extreme. I did promise that I would only support an SRV after the first 6 months of my tenure, and only then if there were no other alternatives. I stuck to that promise. In the process, we could have shed a lot of staff, but we were not able to do that without creating a lot of services being discontinued, etc. In fact, the natural resource section suffered greatly, and I think Warren over there was mentioning that as well. So I battled hard to try to keep the natural resource section there. So if you don't increase the rates at times, then you have to shed staff. And we could not, we shed 27 staff, and a number of those were in the natural resource section, which I was really not happy with, but I was prepared to do that rather than shed a lot more staff.
Okay. Thank you, Greg. All right, next question is for Alison Waits. Mining. In the Clarence Valley Independent on November the 3rd, the 12 councillors who responded unanimously opposed mining in the Clarence catchment. This week, you vowed to oppose calls to ban mining on the North Coast. Please enlighten us to your position.
Okay, so good outcomes mean attracting jobs. I think the Clarence Valley and all councillors have to make sure that we create jobs in the area as well. We all know there's got to be mines. You cannot have wind, solar and hydro projects without having the mines. You can't run cars, you can't have net zero without the mines. I didn't say that I was for fully the Clarence Valley. What I said is I will not say no to the mines without the further information from the government, which means the environmental services, the reports that come through, I haven't read them yet, so I do need to make sure that I read it very thorough as well before I make my opinion on that. But it's going to do $35 million a year. It's going to bring into the Clarence Valley for 4 years. Rejuvenation for the last year for all the issues that was caused about 90 years ago. So I do believe that we do need to think about it very wisely as a council, because it will bring jobs and a lot of money to the area.
Okay.
And for net zero as well, we do need mines. Thanks.
I'm anticipating some responses to this one. You look this way first. Okay, Greg Clancy wants to speak first.
Thank you. As a foundation member of the Clarence Catchment Alliance and an executive member, it is quite clear to me that the community of the Clarence do not want to see the Clarence River damaged by the potential of mining, which is a short-term gain. As Alison pointed out, it's only for a few years. We have so many industries that rely on the Clarence. We also, if we have major spills, which are happening everywhere with mining, then a lot of industries on the river can suffer. But not only that, the river is so important to our three nations, our three First Nations, and also to the ecology of the whole area. So it's too risky. Yes, we need to mine. The Clarence Catchment Alliance is not against mining, but it has to be done in the right place. We've done the research. Go on the Catchment Clarence Alliance Facebook page and website, and you will find all the information you need. If we wait for an EIS, it'll be too late, it'll get approved, and we won't really get a say in it. Thank you.
Okay. I'll cross to Deborah Novak.
Thank you. So for those who haven't been paying attention for the past couple of years, the Clarence Valley Council has a resolution on its books that does not support mining. So that resolution is locked in and solid with 10,000 signatures. And if 10,000 signatures means nothing to you, well, that would be fairly concerning to me. The big thing around this issue of mining is that if you bring in mining, it has the potential to impact the agriculture sector in our community, which has the largest number of employees and the largest number of businesses in our valley. So why would you knock out the most important assets in our valley for a very small minor part, mining?
And Bill Day.
Councils believe in zonings, and they do so that you don't have an industrial factory put next to your house, obvious reasons. I don't think it's too much to ask the state government to zone the state and rule some areas out for mining. And if you were going to do that, the area that you'd rule out would be the area that's full of rivers, the northern rivers. We all change our attitudes. There was a time when I thought there must be some areas in the Clarence Valley where you could allow mining. But I saw where Kevin Hogan, the federal National Party member for Page, has supported the ban on mining in the Clarence. And I think the community has said very, very clearly, as established by Kevin Hogan, they don't want mining. And I have to go with the science, I have to go with the community, and I suggest that we ask the state government to put in areas that are zoned no mines.
Alrighty, maybe one more response on that question, Steve Pickering.
I would like to say that I'm opposed to mining within the Clarence, mineral mining within the Clarence catchment, for the reasons that our fishing industry, our agricultural industries and our tourism industries are way too vulnerable for a mistake to happen. I don't have a problem with mining. I think we already have mining in the Clarence, and in fact, out of the workforce of the Clarence, 0.5% of our workforce is employed in the mining currently, so that's already there. It may bring in money into the Clarence, but that money won't stay in the Clarence. And if we look at the exploration licences that have already been announced and that are using, those have already been breached, and those mining companies have already been penalised for those breaches. If they can't stick to what the licence says in the first place, how can we trust them in the future? And our future agriculture and fishing and tourism industries are just way too valuable to jeopardise them.
Thank you, Steve. Okay. Everyone's doing really well, sticking to the time limits here. I'm impressed. Next one, Phil Belletti. What are your thoughts on medical services in the Clarence Valley, and what needs to be done for these to be improved?
Thanks, Bill. Okay, medical services are not the responsibility of council, but the reality is that we need to advocate. We need to have a shared vision with the state and federal government. Every one of us will need a medical service at some point. Grafton Base Hospital has been promised $260 million for its upgrade. We are at a point where Maclean needs to have millions of dollars spent on it. We need services in Yamba. We need the villages to have their own services as well. So we need to make sure that we advocate for those sort of things, and that's why we need leaders that are going to stand up for the community and not just sit there and just say, okay, we're only one vote and we're only one person. We have to have a shared vision and not be drip-fed by the federal and state governments, because there's a massive gap in the planning. So we need jobs. We need to really make sure development is managed. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Phil. All right, anyone else want to talk about medical facilities? Peter Hanson.
Thank you, Bill. I believe that such rigour in planning and, as my neighbour asserts, is also required in many other areas under council jurisdictional guidance, such as river health, I'd suggest. Community housing is another one. It's state funding, federal funding. It's local initiative that'll see these things up and running.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? And Don Scott.
Good evening, everyone. As a podiatrist, I see medical emergencies on a daily basis. The Clarence Valley is missing out on a lot of university-trained people. We need a university college here in the valley. We've missed out in the past. It's now time for a change and try and promote Southern Cross University to come down here again and set up a campus. At the Oka Health, they have university-trained students coming up from Wollongong as part of the registrar group, and they're trying to educate the young doctors in the Oka Health Centre.
Okay, thank you. Move on to the next question. Steve Pickering. I'm going to say it again, the unofficial Mayor of Ulmarra. Why have you nominated to run for council, and what do you hope to achieve if you're elected?
Thanks, Bill. I'm a doer. I'm not a talker. I own and operate the Coldstream Gallery, which is a premier gallery in New South Wales. I volunteer for the RFS, the SCS. I'm president of the Progress Association. I'm on the Cultural Committee and also a member of the Clarence Roundtable. I brought my community together to create a plan for our area, and with my leadership we have secured $3.5 million in funding to make Ulmarra even more livable and sustainable into the future. I fought to save the Ulmarra pool. I spoke up not just for Ulmarra community but for the entire Clarence Valley. I fought to save one of the few community facilities left in Ulmarra. I created a plan and presented it to council, who still voted to close our pool to save a few $1,000s. I've spoken to a lot of people, and many of them in the Valley feel ignored. Many of them have struggled to get information or assistance with problems from council. I want to be their voice, and I want to do more for my community. And if elected, I'll stand up for all the residents of the Valley, especially the forgotten, those in rural areas and our small villages. I want an open, transparent council where decisions are made in the open, not behind closed doors. I want a council to spend on goods and services and trades in the Clarence Valley. I want to see a quarterly report to show the amount spent locally. Every dollar spent in our valley means more jobs for our community.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Anyone like to respond to that?
Yeah.
Yep, Peter Allen.
I think Steve Pickering would make a great councillor.
All righty. Yeah, and Karen Toms.
Thank you. I actually agree. Steve's a wonderful community-minded person, but one thing I'm going to just mention that he may not be aware of, if he is successful and becomes a councillor, do you know, Steve, that you won't be welcome at the round table anymore? Did you know that councillors are not welcome at the round table? Now, that's an interesting thought, isn't it? That has to change.
Okay. All right. Next question, Ash Gibbons. You are the youngest candidate and could be viewed as a vote for Clarence Valley's young people. How can you use your connectedness as a young person to help improve council's perception in the community?
Thanks, Bill. Look, I think we live in the 21st century, so I think we really need to be innovative. Social media is a huge presence that a lot of young people use, and it's one avenue that I've really used for my campaign, and it's relatively really cheap for council to use. So that's one way that I think, we should really be putting, our avenues down that way to try and be innovative on the way that we think and the way we do things and to make things easier for our customers. Let's see, what we can digitise as much as we can. Obviously, that could be, a bit of a concern for our elderly community and that kind of thing. But if they can get online, if they can go to the libraries and that kind of thing, instead of them sending in their information and then it has to get scanned, we're starting to save costs in all different ways. So we just need to be innovative on the way that we're thinking and start to be smarter, work smarter, not harder.
All right, thanks, Ash. Anyone else like to respond to that? Bill Day?
Thank you, Ash, and that's all well and good. But we should remember that there are people who aren't computer literate. There are people who seek their information not from the council website, which is very, very difficult to manoeuvre. And council used to spend a lot of money with the Daily Examiner and advertised development applications. All council business was advertised on a regular basis. And when the Daily Examiner went west and went digital, they have been absolutely opposed to advertising development applications and council material in our only, well, I think there's a couple of new papers coming along, but the independent newspaper, which comes out weekly and it's free, has been a desert for council information. They've just recently started to advertise a few things in it, but it's essential that council communicates with the people, not just through social media, but all forms of media.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Anyone else? Okay. Next, Don Scott. So just some background. Don was barred from Maclean and Yamba's Meet the Candidates events and forced to move his podiatry practice to an all-inclusive medical centre due to his vaccination status. This is a question that's come from Joanne Enslow, who's watching on the live stream. She wants to know whether any candidates are prepared to take a stand against vaccine mandates, QR check-ins and other restrictions of freedom in our community. So Don, I'll ask you, what are your thoughts on this?
Okay, I do not want to see mandates for vaccines. I have a medical issue, but I tried to get an exemption from it and they would not allow me an exemption through the New South Wales Health Department or my own GP. We should be free. COVID is a thing of the past. On the 15th of December, everything's going to be open and free, and we should be free right now. The virus does not know a date. The virus does not know the weather change. The virus does not exist if you look at your own. I'm very angry about this. The virus is very much a non-event in my mind. I have done my science and... Sorry? Millions of people have
allow
died
him
of
to answer the
something,
question.
but not COVID. They have died of many things.
All right. Okay. Anyone else want to speak about COVID? Karen Toms.
Thank you. Look, I am all for our community being vaccinated, and the reason why it is opening up on the 15th of December is because the vaccination rates are up into the 90%. Now, I'm one of the vulnerable people. I've had an autoimmune disease for most of my life, about 40 years, rheumatoid arthritis. If I got COVID, then I would have probably more than likely died because of the medication I'm on that suppresses my immune system. So I feel that as a community, it's irresponsible to say it doesn't exist when we know there are millions of people all over the world who have been buried in mass graves because of this disease. So to say it doesn't exist and ignore what's happened in the world for going on 2 years, close to 2 years, I'm quite surprised to hear somebody actually say that. The evidence is there, and we need to protect our community. And if having a vaccine protects the vulnerable in our community, especially the elderly and people who are sick, then please have your vaccine.
Thanks, Karen. Anyone else want to speak on vaccine mandates? Peter Hansen.
Thank you, Bill. Yes, it's obviously an advantage to the community if as many as possible are vaccinated, because it reduces the overall risk of suffering a life-threatening illness. It reduces the symptoms enormously, but there are those, obviously, who cannot have it and they're at risk, and that is their lookout, I believe. They do the best they can, avoid company, wear masks, as it might be.
Okay. Anyone else? Next, Jeff Smith. You're a business owner in Prince Street in the Grafton CBD. What is your vision for this precinct?
Right, so I was on a working committee for two days, I think it was, and there's some grand plans for Prince Street as far as a redevelopment and rejuvenation. I'd like it to see that whole CBD area to become a vibrant hub connected to the riverfront. What it's starting to happen is some longer term vision, which has been desperately needed, rather than just sort of chucking ideas here and there. But it's now there is a coherent plan that's now in place. We can now go to the state government for funding with something under the arm and go, look, here's something awesome. It's going to link with the river. It's going to blow people's minds and get people back into the streets and the parks of Grafton. And with that comes the economic benefit, of course, but also the social benefits and the mental benefits of people out and about and reconnecting and being part of a community once again.
Okay. Anyone else want to speak on the Grafton CBD? Peter Ellum.
Yes, I know that a lot of good planning has gone into it, Jeff, and if Grafton wants to regain its status as a regional city, which was stripped away from it and downgraded to a strategic centre in 2016 by the current state government, it needs to do that. It needs to link the CBD with the riverfront upgrade. It needs to strengthen the Grafton Airport tarmac and get stage 1 of the aquatic centre done as well. Grafton should not suffer from a cultural cringe. That's why the admin centre refurbishment, something that was 14 years in the making, and will drive greater efficiencies, and local subcontractors on that project were something in the order of 95% towards the end of the project.
Okay.
So all of these things need to happen for Grafton to regain its mantle as a a regional city, and I support all of these.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Anyone else want to speak? Greg Clancy.
Yes, I think the plans are very good. I personally have discussed at workshops that I'd like to see more emphasis on restoring some of the local native trees that are native to Susan Island, which you can stand on the end of Prince Street and look at. I think that would make it more attractive for tourists to come back and not just see jacarandas, but see what was here for thousands or millions of years. And that can be a real attraction. It would bring the wildlife right into town, and there's already wildlife here, but there'll be a lot more. And also link up with the First Nation people, because the island is extremely important as a woman's place, and I want to see the ecological aspects and the Indigenous cultural aspects highlighted. Now, I think they are to some degree, but I think we could do a little bit better with that. But it's good to see that it is being redeveloped, and I think that will be good for the tourists and for the locals. Thank you.
Anyone else? We've got Bill. Sorry, Deborah. Yep, Deborah Novak.
Thank you. I really love the idea of improving Grafton CBD, and I was just reading last week that Grafton used to be called Queen City of the North, along with the Clarence River as the Queen River of the North as well. So I thought these were really great assets to include in the CBD plan. But Grafton CBD is a really exciting place as it is now, and it's just going to get a whole lot better. As the person who runs the Grafton Twilight Market, I see these amazing people come out every week out of the woodwork, out of the offices and from around our region to our park to Market Square every week. And Market Square was 100 years ago and 50 years ago the place where political meetings used to happen. So I'm really glad to see this meeting happening here tonight, and I look forward to seeing the development of the CBD and to see it grow and gather momentum into the future and into the next council.
All right. And finally, Bill Day, but we haven't heard from you, Alison, so, yep, go ahead.
Thank you. I think that's fantastic, especially what's going to be happening in the CBD of Grafton. Let's not forget South Grafton. As you know, our agency is in Spring Street, Skinner Street. It is thriving there as well. There's a lot of businesses that are now opened there. We have 4 hairdressers and a barber in one street. It's just amazing. I want to see South Grafton to actually grow as well. So let's put some support into South Grafton. Thanks.
Okay. And very quickly, Bill.
I believe Grafton CBD, Grafton Riverfront and South Grafton would be much better served if Council got its Tourism Act back together. I manage the Clarence River Tourist Association for more than 20 years. My team and I put tourism in the Clarence Valley on the map, and the construction of the Visitor Information Centre at South Grafton was one of our greatest achievements. We won many awards at both regional and state levels. What's Clarence Valley Council done? Clarence Valley Council sacked the community board that governed the CRTA. The council slammed the doors of the Visitor Information Centre shut, and there it stands at Grafton's front door, decaying, just like the service station across the road. I want to reopen the Visitor Information Centre, and I want to get tourism back on track in Grafton and in the Clarence Valley.
Okay, thanks, Bill. That is a question we'll be returning to later, so you might get another opportunity to say a bit more about thoughts there. So next question, and I'll just say also, I probably am giving a little bit of leniency to some of the existing councillors because they're kind of responding sometimes to things that they already have an understanding of what's been happening. So, but yeah, certainly some of the councillors, some of the candidates that we haven't heard from yet, so don't be shy, pipe up. Next, we've got Greg Clancy. What are your views on ecological sustainability, and is council currently environmentally sensible in its decision making?
I've just spent 5 years and 3 months fighting hard to try to protect the natural ecosystems of the valley, often very unsuccessfully, I might add, but also at times successfully. It's been a real challenge, and I'm really looking forward to, if I am re-elected, to working on a council that takes ecological sustainability much more seriously. In saying that, I think there's a lot of good staff who are doing what they can below the surface, and I commend them for that because it's not always easy. But I have been very, very disappointed at the pro-development attitude of at least 5 and maybe 6 of the current councillors. And I've had very little support, but there's a couple of re-nominating councillors who have supported me on a number of issues, and I thank them for that. But if we don't look after the ecological sustainability of the area, then everything collapses, and that includes jobs and our lifestyle and all those, and the natural world, and we've got to be sensible about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Who wants to speak on ecological sustainability? Phil Belletti.
I actually agree with Greg, even though we may have some differing opinions on the development. I'm about managed development. I'm about creating jobs for the future. I've seen systems created where you can have a balance between the two. Now, I know it's very difficult, but we've got to balance it out. The reality is that we all moved here. I moved here 16 years ago because of the environment, because of the beautiful, pristine environment. A river that you don't even see a boat on, I don't want to see that changed. But I'm also on boards where I can tell you now, there are big corporates looking at ticking all the boxes for investments and their regional focus, okay? So what I said at the previous meeting was we've got to be careful, we've got to manage it, and people like Greg need to be hard-nosed about that sort of thing because they will take over and then they will just do whatever they want and they can circumnavigate councils and state governments. So I agree, Greg.
All right. Anyone else? Jeff Smith.
Look, I agree totally with Greg that we've got to protect what we've got here. It's absolutely unique, this river, and we don't want to see it change. What I'm sick of, and I'm not anti-development, but I want to see imaginative, clever development. I'm sick of seeing these developments where it's wall-to-wall houses, any stick of vegetation is removed. We've got gutters virtually touching gutters, lawns, backyards that are so small you're never going to plant a tree in it. Let's not create more of these developments. Let's do some clever stuff. There's the space there. If the will is with council, we can have decent sized parks. We can have decent sized areas of vegetation that enhance people's lifestyles and enhance people's living, rather than continuing to create these mass developed, jammed in development, mass developed sort of places to abide in and to pay, banks for the rest of your lives. So let's just do it a little bit more clever. Thanks.
All right. Oh, yep, sorry. Well, you're getting there, Karen, but you can speak again. It's okay. You can save yourself for later. Yeah. All right. Next question for Peter Hansen. Why do you believe we have turned our backs on our first highway, the Clarence River, and what needs to be done to improve utilisation of this important resource?
Thank you, Bill. Is it now too dirty for fish, this river? A house and block prices flying through the roof, enormous motor vehicles for personal use, cows with absolute frontage. Our river is all but forgotten except as their view, and which has its own special tree clearing option. Livestock grind down the banks, causing serious siltation chokage. Logging is again increased, and the river's discoloration shows such an increase 3 months after floods in March of only catfish at Maclean. And now some support for the filthing industry of mining and its refining on site by chemical treatment and dammed residues. Where in there is any support for our once famous and now nearly dead fishing industry and recreational fishing? Fresh is best. Fish is more beneficial nutritively than beef, apparently. Fishing is an industry that employs many locally when the waters are wholesome. Many of the world's rivers now outpouring fouled waters, devoid of oxygenation, consequent of algal consumption of nitrates, devoid of useful nutrient known as black water. Anywhere the fish are all gone, the jellyfish predominate. Barely edible. Jellyfish and chips, anyone?
All right. Thanks, Peter. Anyone want to talk about the first highway, the Clarence River, the mighty Clarence. Deborah.
How could I
Deborah
not
Novak.
talk about the Clarence River, the mighty Clarence River? And when I was at the Yamba Farmers Market yesterday, I was talking to two lads from Coffs Harbour, and I was explaining to them that the river, as the dolphins were going by, is 400 kilometres, 100 islands, and it is our bloodline, and it's what gives us everything and keeps our environment, our culture, our First Nation people, our humanity. It keeps us alive and it keeps us thriving. Everything needs to focus on how we maintain that health, how we look at it, what we do on the river is all very, very significant to the future of our generation, the next generation. So it's really important that we look after it as custodians along with our First Nation people.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Next. Peter Ellum. So you're seeking re-election. What achievements from your first term of council can you highlight to show why you deserve to continue as a Clarence Valley councillor?
Thanks, Bill. Well, some of the community wins in the first term were notice of motion waiving all council fees for all bushfire-affected residents rebuilding. That's uninsured and insured because of the high costs of doing that. Roundabouts for Yamba Road, stop the push for traffic lights in the gateway to that tourist town. James Creek Road and McIntyre's Lane, bitumen sealed. Led the crackdown on illegal camping, not only in Yamba but coastal villages, and that led to 3 extra rangers. And in Grafton, I championed the Grafton Regional Art Gallery redevelopment, convincing other councillors to put in an EIO in that cultural fund, and we landed $7.6 million for Grafton. Now that's a gallery that'll rival any regional gallery in Australia, and it's the kind of thing we need, iconic development like that to attract people, more people here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good, thank you. Anyone want to respond to Peter's answer there? I think this is our last one. Deborah Novak. One of 3 new you were one of 3 new councillors on the previous council, and I guess you most of all endured a steep and well-documented learning curve. How has this made you stronger and even better prepared for the next term of council?
What a great question. Hey, look, it has been a steep learning curve, learning about the processes of local government, and it's not something I've witnessed or experienced before. It has strengthened my resolve to champion our community a lot more. It's made me being an elected councillor has certainly opened my eyes to how to do things better, even in my own business world when dealing with council. It's opened my eyes to how I can champion the community much broader and much wider and strengthen my conversations with them to enable our community to understand the process in which council works. So I feel over the past 5 years, even though it's been the worst 5 years for our community, I believe, in terms of all our natural disasters, it's been some of the best 5 years because it's actually brought us together as a community. It's showed our strengths. It's showed us that we actually have a backbone as a community. And I think for a lot of those people who've leaned into some of those hard conversations, it has shown the people outside of our region what we're made of, and that's what I'm really proud of, working with those people in our community to, amplify our voice.
Okay, thank you, Deborah. Greg Clancy.
Yeah, thank you. I think that the 9 councillors, or any that haven't served on council before, will find it quite an eye-opener when they take up the reins of Clarence Valley Council. I've been around government and bureaucratic areas and that for a long time, run my own business as well, but when I got on council it was like nothing I'd ever experienced before. It is rewarding. I wouldn't still be here, I wouldn't be re-nominating if it wasn't. But the 5 years, 3 months has been also quite a challenge in a lot of ways, which I won't go into now, but I do think that the candidates who haven't been on council before, I'm just saying, be prepared, because it's nothing like you've ever done before, no matter what you've done in life. And things like the code of conduct can really stifle what you want to do. The expectation of the community is that you as a councillor can go and fix that pothole or whatever, and there's a lot of unrealistic expectations out there. But it is really rewarding, and I hope to see some of you on the new council. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Yes, Warren Lang.
During many travels around Australia, I've been involved in meeting with councillors after hours in regards to what was happening at the front of my place, roadworks or proposed new works by local government. In the situation when I moved to Maclean, there was issues with illegal clearing of vegetation. I contacted the Environmental Defender's Office. I sought a response from the councillors, and that's where I was going back to Deborah Novak, was the only one who responded to an email in regards to that, but all I was provided with really was an enforcement policy, that the guidelines by which council should respond, in which that's been an ongoing issue because they've somewhat closed the door on me, is what Bill Day said, that if you want to engage in any conversation in regards to a complaint, the council does not know how to engage in that conversation, right? It's all about consultation. And it doesn't matter what you want to do. If it's an inquiry, if it's a complaint, the shutters come down and they don't want to know about it. So that's what needs to change, right? And it's all about culture. So it's, all right, it's all about culture, so I'll leave it with that. Thank you.
We might be able to revisit some of that as well a little bit later on. So that action, Bill Day, yes, sorry, more comments here?
I'd just like to congratulate the 4 councillors who are re-nominating. At other forums, you've told us how you were bullied and disrespected in the current council. I'm not sure why you haven't gone down that track tonight, but I just hope there's no bullying, and I hope that everybody's respected on the new council.
Okay. So I think that wraps up the initial part of the evening, where we've canvassed every one of the candidates and allowed some responses. I guess before we continue, I'd just like to let you know a little bit about Clarence Media. We're the Clarence Valley's new interactive news source, connecting the community with local voices, local faces, local ideas and local news that is valued and relevant to local people. Our mission is to provide high quality media production solutions for regional businesses, sporting organisations and community groups. To help grow our site as a community information hub, we're looking for content creators or local business people who are experts in their field, perhaps some of these councillors here, who would like to contribute weekly articles on various topics within their area of expertise. So simply reach out via email to me, william@clarencemedia.com.au, and we can go from there. Meanwhile, if you'd like to support Clarence Media, we have advertising options available, produce video commercials, live streaming, coverage of events and more. We're running introductory offers on absolutely everything at the moment, so get in touch with me again at email william@clarencemedia.com.au to find out what we can do for you. You can also support us by clicking on the orange Support Clarence Media button icon on the right hand side of our homepage. The quicker we grow, the quicker we can better serve the community. Once again, thank you to our sponsors, Liberty South Grafton, Liberty Service Station South Grafton, DM Timber Flooring, Yamba Tiles and Lights and Loving Life FM. And now we might take a couple of questions from our live audience, specifically from the South Grafton Progress Association, who have come to this event for their monthly meeting. So Robert Cook is going to, on behalf of South Grafton Progress Association, just ask 2 questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, look, this one, we haven't touched on it tonight, but it's crime in the valley. Seems to be a bit of a kept quiet situation, but I asked the councillors that crime directly affects the lives of Clarence Valley residents. So how could you make changes to keep citizens aware of the types of crime happening in their locations and provide clear feedback of what police and council plans are to put those offenders or to have those offenders apprehended.
Okay, sorry. Karen Toms.
Thank you very much for your question. Earlier in my term, we used to have a committee called the Crime Safety Committee, and I was on that committee, and so were the very high-ranking police officers from the Clarence area. You might remember Mark Houlihan. He was the top cop then, and he's retired since. But anyway, we had representatives from all over the valley, Iluka, Yamba, Grafton, South Grafton, and we met alternatively from down here to the Lower Clarence. It was more a sharing of information, actually, about the statistics, very detailed, where the crime was happening, maps, all sorts of crime, domestic violence, theft, and they had a handle on where it was. And also it was an opportunity for the members of that group to put forward their concerns. That sadly stopped, and I'm not really sure of the reason, but not long ago, the councillors from this term may recall a meeting we had with the police with Joanne Reid and some other high-ranking senior officers came, and they are planning on because it's not a Clarence Valley initiative, it's a police initiative, and they are planning on reintroducing that. But to be honest with you, I think COVID might be the reason why it hasn't moved forward yet, but hopefully it will soon.
Okay. Well, hands everywhere. We might go down here to Phil first, Phil Belletti.
Robert, thanks for that question, because if you recall, about 3 years ago, I was the president, 4 years ago, I was president of the Grafton Chamber of Commerce, and we were able to get $200,000 for Grafton, South Grafton, and we also put cameras in Elmira. So we set the businesses up in coordination with the COPS command. So Joe Reid and Dallas Levin were part of our group. Now, the council had actually put cameras in other places as well, which was really good to see. So we're able to coordinate some with them, and we need more. We need to. The feedback we've got is that they have reduced the crime a lot over the last three or 4 years. We would have loved to have got more money and done the whole valley, but it's very hard to manage that. And the chamber, we managed it just with our volunteer resources. So we were lucky we had businesses that were able to assist. So crime is very important, and the council to a degree has provided funding, and I know over the years that some of that funding was not taken up. But we, as a business chamber, we were able to get out to all the businesses, and that seems to have worked very well.
Okay, and now Peter Ellum.
Robert, I actually attend the Richmond and Tweed Byron Command quarterly meetings of the Community Safety Consultative Committee in my day job, and all of the mayors are represented there, as are most of the chambers of commerce. So I see no reason why Clarence Command can't be reconstituted. And I know Chris Galapis actually comes to the Richmond Command meeting in person sometimes. So yeah, I see no reason why it'd be a very valuable thing if we could reconstitute, and the new council might take that forward back to the superintendent.
All right, and final response on this question, Greg Clancy.
Yeah, I want to approach from a different angle. I think we need to look at why there is crime. I think we need to make sure the support services for people with drug and alcohol problems and domestic violence problems and all these issues that lead to crime. We've just got a massive jail built out here at Glenorchy, and it's so sad because we're locking up so many people when we should be trying to find out why they're creating the problems, why they're committing crimes. And I know that some people need to be locked up. There are some people that we just can't risk having out in the community. But I'd like to approach it from a different angle. And certainly, yes, we need to talk with the police, and the police, I believe, do their best. But we also do need to look at why people are committing crimes and try to assist those people that are ending up in the courts all the time. I've been over in the courthouse and seen it at times, And these people go in there and they in a lot of ways, they're their own worst enemies. They need help.
All right. Robert, did you want to ask another question, or someone? Yeah, I'll go. Robert, again from the South Grafton Progress Association.
Jobs. This is to do with jobs. Jobs are the blood supply to every vibrant, healthy and self-sufficient community. If you were elected, how would you contribute in a measurable way to improving job situation in Grafton and in the Clarence Valley?
Okay, Deborah Novak.
There are 4,000 registered businesses here in the Clarence Valley, and over 2,500 of those businesses are a sole trader. If we could organise or coordinate a Clarence Valley something like a business chamber to support those sole traders. And imagine if those 2,500 sole traders employed one person. There is a lot of work there. And I just think that as I'm a sole trader, I know how amazing it would have been if I had had support maybe 20 years ago or even 10 years ago out there helping me to grow my business, but instead I had to kind of back myself and grow it myself. But I work with a lot of 70 small businesses at the moment between two farmers markets. So what I've done in my time as coordinator is actually enabling those small businesses to scale up, finding staff for them and giving them skills in which that they can actually grow their own businesses, because they cannot rely on a lot of other enterprises to support them. So it's about creating services or something that can support these sole traders most of all, because I just believe in them so much, and I believe that they are the backbone of our economy. Okay. And
right.
that includes the farmers in there as well.
Thanks, Deborah. Peter Hanson.
Thank you, Bill. I believe that we have a great availability for employment if we would put ourselves to reinvigorating our river, of course. It will employ many, I believe, and well to their pleasure or interest and enjoyment. A green corps, perhaps, of youth who could be clothed at some expense, so they will have some decent clothes, accommodated, and enjoy the sense of productivity and input into the community, which many value more than merely slaving for someone else for very little meaning.
Okay. First we'll go to Jeff Smith.
Yeah, I'm very pro small business. I am a small business owner myself. I employ 7 casual staff. And really, as far as council goes and how they can help, well, there's two things. Now, over the years, council has made it a lot easier, but I'd like to see it, council make it far easier for small businesses to start and to thrive, and to cut away red tape. As I said, there's been a lot of change, but there's more to do. As well as that, there's another point that I'd like to raise. I'd like to see a strengthening of the council's buy local policy, so that they can actually seek out local providers, local suppliers, local service providers, and purchase goods and services from them first, even if they're slightly more expensive. But rather than bringing in outside, suppliers of stuff, let's keep the demand here and keep the money here and keep it churning around within the Clarence Valley.
All right, and finally, Bill Day.
Well, I believe that council should look after and listen to existing business operators, people like Jeff, people like Robert. Make local businesses, existing businesses more successful, help them, get them to value add. If they're successful, they're a beacon to investors to come along and open more businesses, small businesses, rather than looking for a miracle new industry. We're always looking for miracles. Complex problems rarely have simple solutions, but by looking after your existing operators is a fairly simple thing to do. And a new industry has to run the gauntlet of environmental issues, as we've spoken about tonight. The other issue is tourism. Let's get it cranking again.
All right. Oh, okay. Karen, quickly on that topic.
Thank you. Look, it's not actually up to council to create jobs. It's up to people. Entrepreneurs create jobs. That's the reality. Yes, we need to have a more enabling council. I happen to know there's a man sitting over in that in the gallery out there, I'll call it a gallery, who gets extremely frustrated with council. Now, here's a builder. Builders build homes. We need more homes. Sorry for someone who said they don't want them too small. We need them on smaller blocks to make them affordable. That's a huge problem. But I've heard from many of our builders that they come up with brick walls and make it very difficult. And when we make it very difficult for builders to build homes, it costs money. It costs delays. And I think I might be sort of talking about you tonight here, Robin Gipp. And I know you ring me a lot and tell me about the frustrations you have. But really, we need to take our hat off to the people who actually are job creators, entrepreneurs, and we need to support them. And many of them are financially excluded from the banks because they don't have the collateral. So that's where my work with Grameen Australia is going to make a big difference to people who are going to be able to get small loans without all the paperwork, without all of that, more like a trust thing. And if you read The Australian yesterday, there's a great story in there about that. So that is going to be coming to Grafton soon. Watch this space.
Now, actually, I did see Robin Gibbs with us this evening. You're eager, mate, from the South Grafton Progress Association as well. If you'd like to ask a question, go ahead.
I would like to know if you get elected to council, would you vote on your own personal opinion or would you vote for the benefit of the 50-odd people in the valley?
The 50-odd thousand people in the valley. Okay. Yeah, we'll start with Steve Pickering.
I would approach every decision with an open mind, Robin, and look at all the evidence from all sides. And if the community were going to be affected by the decision, I would talk to that local community, and I would make a decision based on my experience, my knowledge, and also the information that I received as part of the decision-making process. So I would make the best decision that was for the community as a whole.
Okay, anyone else? Any of the new candidates want to speak? Yeah, Ash Gibbons.
Yeah, Robin, I'd just like to answer your question that if I'm elected, that I won't be acting on my beliefs. My reason for electing is to act on part of the community and put their best interests first. So that's how I would answer to your question, that I wouldn't base my decision on my beliefs. It would be beyond what's best for the community.
And Alison Waits. Yep.
Thank you for that question. As we know that I am not a sole trader, I'm actually a company, so I actually would like to employ more people here. Just wanted to make a quick comment. The government does have Job Maker as well, which we do use that in our agency. Just to answer your question, I would never go in there with my own beliefs. I think we all know that because I'm one of the only ones that will stand up and fight for jobs. Like I said, I'm the only one that said that would like the mines here. And every meet the candidates, I'm actually the one that says I need more information before I say yes or no. So I am here to fight for the community and give them what they need and what they want as well, not my own beliefs. Thank you.
Okay. We'll hear from one of the current councillors, Greg Clancy.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. Yeah, look, certainly. I always have and always will vote in a way that reflects the good of the community. I have strong views and they are supported by a percentage of the community. There's a whole lot of different views in the community. I represent the people that are concerned about the environment and concerned about small villages and the community generally. And I saw the reaction when I said that I do represent the community. Well, I do. And just because I have a different view to people who want to see this area changed, bring in big industry, growth brings with it its problems. It's not, this jobs and growth mantra really is a problem. And I know that people may think that I bring my personal views in, but I also bring my professional views in, and that's what has been ignored for the last 3 years. 5 years.
5.5 years. Okay. All right, yep. And, sorry, Peter Johnston.
I think for me the most important thing is honesty, integrity, and being able to sleep well at night. And I want to do the right thing for everybody. And somebody once gave me the advice, in a difficult situation, just do what you think is right, whatever that might cost.
Okay. And Phil Belletti? All right, well, okay, you can go after Bill. Bill Day.
Okay, one of my favourite sayings. Councillors are butchers and bakers and candlestick makers, hopefully good ones, but they are elected to reflect the views of the community. That's not in isolation. They should also, and particularly, listen to professional staff, but they must be able to trust their staff. And if they can't, they have to make changes, and that's a complex process. But anything that council decides must be lawful. And in fact, staff do not have to carry out any resolutions of council that they deem to be unlawful. So sometimes people think that councillors can do anything and everything. They can't. They must act within the law. And it's usually a combination of factors: listening to the staff, engaging the community, and then sometimes it ends up making a personal decision on the balance. Rarely is it all black and all white. It's often a balance.
Okay. All right, thanks, Bill. And Phil Belletti.
I'll make it brief. One of the other previous Meet the Candidates, I think Jeff Smith said that, we as anyone on the new council, we should all go and visit every village in the valley to get an understanding on what makes you tick, what ticks you off. I think it's a fantastic idea because we're all coming from a different perspective, and we really need to understand what's going on. I mean, we were at, I presented to the South Grafton Progress Association. We did the Glenray Progress Association, and we've spoken to the various chambers of commerce. Now, the reality is we need to make decisions for the whole valley, and it's from the ocean to the mountains, and not everyone's got that experience. So we need a shared vision, and that's what's critical to me.
All right. How's everyone going? It's all good? Might get on to some more questions now, the ones I like to call the hot topics. All righty. Firstly though, we're here in Market Square. You might be able to hear the XPT passing along. Unfortunately, I don't have any questions about trains. Maybe our live audience can bring them up later. But firstly, I've just got a question to everybody. If you could just answer it very simply and briefly. It's from Josephine Waring, who's submitted it to our website. Even if candidates are not funded by any party for this election, can they please state whether or not they are members of a political party? I suppose we'll start from Don Scott down here and work our way around.
Yeah, I'm a loose member of the National Party. I've had no support from them, and I'm just supporting myself.
I've been a member of two parties. I was a member of the Labor Party for 25 years, and I bailed out. If you've ever met Eddie Obeid, you might understand why. And I joined the Liberal Party for a few years, but I haven't been a member of a political party since about the year 2000. I'm a swinging voter.
I am running as an independent and I have no ties to any political party.
I've been a member of the Australian Labor Party since 2007. I work for a state Labor member, Janelle Saff. I have not sought endorsement from the ALP because I prefer to operate independently as a councillor, and I don't think anyone can actually find an example of where I've let party politics enter into the chamber. And I am fully self-funded, do not seek donations nor receive them.
Yep, I'm completely independent, nor have I ever been a member of a political party, and that's a good point. I don't accept donations because of, it gets a bit muddy. I'm completely self-funded and a privateer.
Yes, I'm a general member for the National Party, but I'm not endorsed by the party and do not hold any position All views are my own as a local resident and a business owner. I care about the outcomes of our region first. I'm committed to working with anybody and everyone to benefit our region and push back against anyone not working the best interest for the Clarence Valley.
Yes, I'm the only candidate that is supported by a political party. I'm supported by the Greens. I ran in 2012 as an independent. Everyone thought I was a Green anyway, so I thought, well, I might as well join the Greens. Being a Green is good because I'm not tied down to having to get approval for everything I do. I'm first a councillor, I'm second a Green. I use the resources of the Greens. They have good legal advice. We are part of a community of Green councillors throughout New South Wales. There are over 80 councils with Greens at the moment. After this election, that might be more. And there are mayors and deputy mayors who are Greens, and they are showing that being Green does not mean that you can't act progressively and effectively as a councillor. And so I'm proud of being a Green. I don't bring party politics into the debate in council, and but I have Green leanings anyway, so I obviously will be arguing for the environment and for the community.
Alrighty. Karen?
Oh, thank you. Okay, I'm standing as an independent and I don't accept donations. I fund my own campaign and it's on a very weird little tiny fund. But I will disclose to you tonight that I was a member of the National Party in 2011. I was actually approached by Steve Cansdell when he fell on his sword and resigned if I would join the National Party and stand for pre-selection for the seat of Clarence. And I gave that great consideration and decided that I would do that it was an honour and it was just a step up from being a councillor. Richie Williamson also stood, but the results are out there, and Chris Galaptis won the pre-selection and went on to win the election. I stayed a member for a little while, but I jumped ship too. It wasn't my thing. I prefer to be independent. I'm an independent thinker, and I also didn't like some of the things that I saw against women there. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm a member of the National Party. That said, the National Party doesn't endorse candidates at local elections. It's the only party that doesn't. And I'm completely self-funded and I'm completely independent. Nobody's told me to stand, nobody's told me not to stand. So I'm independent and I will act independently for the best of the people of the Clarence.
I'm an independent. I'm fully funding my own campaign. I went to a Labor Party meeting maybe 15 years ago, and I was also a paid employee of Shooters, Fishers, Farmers.
Thank you. I'm an independent, I'm self-funded, and should I disclose, when I made my debut when I was 16, I was presented to Gough Whitlam. So thank you.
I'm a self-funded independent. Sorry, I didn't hear. I'm a self-funded independent.
Yeah, look, I'm not affiliated with any political party. I am self-funded, but I will take donations.
I also am self-funded. I'm not affiliated. I have been a member of the Greens for 1 year. I do sponsor Greenpeace and the Wilderness Society, however.
Great. All right, there you go. And just for the record, Clarence Media is also independent and will take donations. Okay, we'll take one more question from the audience right now from John Hagar.
Thanks, Phil. Can everybody hear me without the microphone?
Yes. You're online, mate.
We're going to put, if you can hold that, that'd be great.
Okay. Trouble with these things is I've also got Shaggy disease, so if you see me sort of flapping around everywhere, don't call an ambulance, it just happens, okay? On the subject of health, something's come up tonight. We've discussed the relationship between council and the community. We've discussed some of the things that council's done the community's not so happy with, okay? What we haven't really touched on is an underlying belief that seems to pervade Clarence Valley Council that might is right. And as an outlook and as a philosophy, that is fundamentally flawed. Until that's sorted, we're going to continue to have exactly the same problems that we're having now. Back in, when was it? Not long after Ashley took over as GM, Council employed a mob called Voice Project that I think operated out of OLG. They did a staff survey. These are some of the results. And these were questions that were only asked to Clarence Valley Council, not the other 50 or 60 councils they'd surveyed, just here. And they asked them just here because we've had this problem for as long as there's been Clarence Valley Council. And it's never, ever been sorted. See what I mean?
Okay. John,
okay, the
to the question
were, and these are some of the answers. Less than half the staff said they felt safe raising grievances. Only 40% believed those grievances were handled. A quarter of the staff said they'd personally experienced bullying in the workplace. More than half the staff said they'd witnessed bullying in the previous year. That radiates out in the way that council deals with local people, and then it's mirrored back again.
So, John, what's your question for the candidates?
Okay, if I can open. Can somebody hold this thing for a sec, please? Thank you. Oh, getting old so sucks, I tell you. Okay, the question I had was, if you're elected, would you support a full review of council structure with an increased emphasis on building bridges between council and the community, while simultaneously promoting healthier work environments for the 500 staff and those employed via contract? It's an essential that underlies this entire valley. And if we want to have a healthy valley, that bridge has to be mended on all sides. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Firstly, we'll hear from Karen Toms.
Thank you, John, and thank you for coming out tonight, because I know you haven't been well today. Look, do you know what? Those statistics you've just shared with us, it's the first time I, as a governing body, a councillor, have heard those statistics, and that's shameful. But I know that you have people who share things with you, and I'm actually okay with that, because I think people who are being bullied and mistreated need to do those sorts of things. It's not acceptable. I personally have felt bullied myself in the chamber. And I know there are others here that have felt bullied. So back to your question, it is a requirement for a new council to review the structure of council once it's elected. So that is a requirement to review it, okay? It doesn't mean you need to pull it apart and start again. In fact, an organisational structure has just happened this year. And I voted against it. I was unhappy because I felt it needed to wait until a new governing body. But anyway, it's a numbers game and you don't always win. But yes, of course, I don't want a wrecking ball to come in and do that to our community, to our staff who are our community. They are also, there's not quite 500 of them anymore, about 470 something, but they are all people in our community too, and they need to be taken care of, and continual restructures are very destabilising. And that doesn't help people who are already feeling unsafe and concerned for their jobs. Some of them have no choice and stay because they've got mortgages, etc., and nowhere else to go. That's a terrible situation to be in. Of course, I will support having a look at that and building bridges with the community, which I'm trying to do all the time. And it's difficult, and it's a shame that it has to happen. So I've never heard the might is right. I suppose that means the strongest, does it? I'm not sure the might is right. But yeah, it's not acceptable, and I don't think anybody sitting here as a candidate would think it was or is. and I certainly will take an undertaking to work on that, because that does. The culture of an organisation starts at the top, and the culture I have been unhappy with, and it does seep down to the staff, and it's very upsetting to hear that people are feeling that way. It's not good. We are employers and we have responsibility to those people.
Thanks, Karen. I afforded a long answer to a long question. Does anyone else want to speak about that? Bill Day? Bill Day first.
Well, to sum it up, it's a toxic culture in that council. I've said many times tonight, this council needs urgent reform. And John, I would like to thank you for bringing that forward. I know that it went longer than you intended, but you got the message across. This council needs reform. You need a team, not one person. You need a team to do it. Around this table, and Ian Tiley couldn't get here tonight. He's had a lot of... when I was on Maclean Shire Council, we replaced a general manager, we restructured the council, we overturned a toxic culture. That was 1990, but the 1997, 98, 99, but the things that were done then still apply today.
Okay. Firstly, Warren Lang.
Yeah, look, I'd also like to thank John. That was really well spoken and it was clear. I agree totally. But also, look, I can say that the council considers and describes the values and behaviours that they work by and run by the acronym of STRIVE. That is safe, teamwork, respect, integrity, value and engagement. That's what they say that they run by. Well, that is not what we're hearing from John, and I totally agree. We've talked about this before, engagement. They don't want to engage, they don't know how to. Value, well, I don't know where the value is because they overspend on budgets and that's not monitored correctly. So integrity and respect the community and the citizens and listen to what they have to say. That's respect. We do need change. You will get change. You will get change, and that will happen. Thank you.
Firstly, Deborah Novak.
Thank you, Mr Hagar, for that really relevant and important question. And look, I certainly, and I know every councillor and anybody that is going to be elected to the next council would support a review of some of the workplace practices, I guess, but more importantly about what the staff are actually feeling, because they are our backbone. They are the ones who turn up every day and give hopefully more than 150%, which I do see them. A lot of the staff, I do, they're amazing, but there's, there are some issues there, and I'm very, very aware of those. But I think what we need are, other than a review, are some policies in place that actually can enable our staff, and that is things like a whistleblower protection policy and perhaps an internal ombudsman that can absolutely support any staff that see and want to report any wrongdoings.
Okay. We're going to get two more responses on this question. It's opened a bit of a can of worms here. Peter Johnston.
Okay, well, I believe strongly that everybody has the right to feel safe and be without fear in their work environment and their home environment and every environment they're in. And it's very sad to hear the figures that you gave us, John, on that. And clearly people who are in those situations don't work well. And that's going to affect the efficiency of the council. We've spoken about that as well today. But I've been involved in schools. I was very much involved in the analysis of staff and students' happiness and well-being, and bullying came into that. And obviously within schools, there's bullying in every school in the country. But there's a difference in the way the schools will deal with that bullying. And I've been fortunate to be in schools that have been very, very effective at dealing with bullying. And I would like to bring those same principles and procedures that we've used there to see if those could be used in council. I still have a lot to learn. I'm going to be a new councillor if I'm elected, and I have to learn how the council procedures and policies work. But I think I've got something to offer here from what my experience is in schools.
Okay. And the last response to this particular question, Greg Clancy.
Yeah, thank you, John, for your question. There's no doubt that there are issues that we need to deal with. We do need reform. I'm hoping to be part of that reform. I'm quite confident that of all the candidates that are here, I've met most of them. I don't know them all really well, but I'd be very confident that the toxic nature of the previous 5 years and 3 months will be gone. I'm really hopeful of that and confident of it. And I think it starts at the top. It starts with the councillors to set the right attitude, the right culture, and we need to make sure that the General Manager, who has the responsibility for all the staff, because we have very little to do directly with the staff, so it's up to the General Manager to make sure that he or she sets the right tone for the organisation. And I'm all for reform, and I will support reform in relation to that. We have lost so many really good staff in recent times, and maybe for a whole lot of reasons, but I'm really concerned. Thank you.
Okay. So, while we're on this sort of a topic, of one of the questions I have here is, in May 2020, councillors unanimously approved a review of council's unreasonable complainant policy, which cited little to no substantial change. However, it subsequently has resulted in several community members being banned from communications with council. Will any candidates here tonight consider raising a rescission motion to reverse this decision?
Can I speak on that one? Sorry. I certainly will, but we don't need to do a rescission motion because of the time that's gone past. You only need to rescind something if it's within 3 months of that resolution. So there won't need to be a rescission motion, just a review of the policy, and it definitely needs to be done. It's used and abused by our staff. In fact, I have requested an extraordinary meeting this week to try and get 3 residents taken off the banned list. They are not allowed to call council. If they ring and ask a question, they're told, sorry, we can't talk to you unless it's an emergency. They were banned for reasons that have now been disclosed as wrong. We didn't, you might have read The Independent last week. We refused to give them some information, and it turned out that council was wrong. They were banned for being too persistent and asking too many questions and asking for too much information. I wanted the General Manager to release them from that ban before he finishes tomorrow. I was told he can't do that. It needs a council resolution. So I've put forward today a request for an extraordinary meeting to hopefully get them released from that ban, because they are ashamed and feel shamed because no one in the staff, they're on the naughty list, and it's not acceptable.
All right. Good. Bill Day, you want to speak about this topic of banned
the naughty
communicators?
list. I'm on it.
I'll put you on the list too.
And you don't have to try very hard. I had a meeting with the acting General Manager and the Mayor 5 years and 3 months ago, and they said to me, you don't agree with our policy on tourism, do you? And I said, no, I don't. And they said, we'll agree to disagree. From now on, we will not answer any of your outstanding current or future questions. Goodbye. And that ban has stood for 5 years and 3 months. No review, nothing. It's a disgrace.
Okay. Right, and one more response here from Deborah Novak.
Thank you, Bill. So as the person who's co-signing the extraordinary meeting, yes, it's very disturbing to see a council policy being used as a weapon for bad, not a weapon for good, not for good. And as a councillor who's been threatened with that as well, and I've also been suggested to me that I asked too many questions. It's a bit disappointing that, we have not staff but a fellow councillor who says that I asked too many questions. So I think those policies, yes, it needs a review, and I've supported our other members of the community who've had that are used against them as well. So it is a very painful process, and it's a humiliating process to think that you cannot come into your council building because one staff member yields an axe. That is just disgraceful. One person. That is just not on.
What right have they got to do that when they're actually paid by us in the first place? So they're our employees, we're not employed by them, which is totally ridiculous.
All right. Right, so, sorry.
Robin, it's really bad that one person can make that decision, and it's an abuse of power in my opinion. And in this particular case, I didn't know Bill was on the banned list through the unreasonable complainant conduct policy. But they can just use it if they're sick of you asking questions. And like Councillor Novak said, they don't like me asking questions either, so it's a wonder I haven't been banned too. But it's disgraceful, and it shouldn't happen. And we need to talk and communicate, not ban people. And she doesn't even know if she's allowed to go into a library because it talks about council buildings. Mr. Hager was banned for 12 months. He's on the naughty corner, but he was let out. He was actually let out early. I've been told the general manager needs a resolution if I want to instruct him to release these people, so I have no choice but to put in an extraordinary meeting request. I've got no choice. I would rather he just do it.
All right, we'll just move on to another topic now. Given that, we look mindful of time. We did start a little bit late. I hope everyone's happy that we might finish a little bit late. But not moving too far topic-wise, and certainly the people involved. Here's a question. What are your thoughts on Clarence Valley Council's management of tourism and visitor information centres, and where to from here? Might start on this side of the room. I'll go with Steve Pickering first.
When the visitor information centres were closed down, I was extremely disappointed. When I moved to the Valley, my first port of call was the visitor information centre. I received personal service. The council then closed the visitor information centres, so I was forced to start up my own visitor information centre, supplying information to tourists and visitors to our area. I also I put my own ads on social media, promoting not just my business, but the whole area, the village, and the Clarence Valley. I really want to see the visitor information centres reopened, especially the one in South Grafton, and I'd love to see the visitor information centre at Ferry Park, Maclean, restaffed with people. To answer the questions, we're getting so many visitors coming to the area, and online activities just are not the same. We need the personal contact, the personal information, and the human contact is what people are looking for. So we definitely need to do something about it. It was a bad decision in the first place, and it's taken way too long to get it resolved. We need a new council to redo this.
Peter Johnston.
I remember many years ago, my family were travelling across Australia. We were visiting from the UK, and on that journey we came to the Grafton Tourist Information Office. And I think I must ask you, Bill, if you were the one who set that up, but was involved in that, because we really had some great service there. And when we decided to move to Australia with a doctor and a maths teacher, we could have gone anywhere we wanted to in the country, but we remembered very positively our time in the Clarence Valley. It was a great place to come to, great place to live in, and we had a great welcome. And I just fear at the moment that people coming to the Clarence Valley won't have that welcome at all. We need to make the Clarence Valley a destination rather than something that people travel through. And for that, we need excellent tourist information services.
Now, Greg Clancy first.
Yeah, sorry, Bill. I just wanted to speak because I was one of the councillors that voted for the new way of tourism. I was fairly new on council. It was put to us that it was the only way, that we couldn't afford to keep running the VICs, the visitor information centres. I was sold that idea, and I went along with it, a bit reluctantly, but I went along with it. But over time, I've begun to think, well, no, we've probably done the wrong thing here. And so the South Grafton Visitor Information Centre has been up for auction, up for sale in auction, and I've repeatedly voted against any motion to get rid of that. I think even if it wasn't used for a VIC, it is a resource of council which the community basically paid for, and we really should keep it. So I have changed, and I think we need to do a proper review. Obviously, we need to know what the costs will be and how we can, have people in those VICs if we do reopen them. But I'm well open to suggestions and to work with the new council on that one.
Now, I think it would be remiss of me not to ask if Bill Day would like the final response on this one.
I've got nothing to We were just too successful. Visitors loved it, loved us, loved the visitor information centres. Locals loved us because they got good service. But we were governed by the community. Fancy caravan park operators, motel operators, people who run a business having any idea about tourism. Council knows it all. So they had to destroy it. We produced tourist books and maps. 180,000 tourist books, full colour books with maps and information, all self-funded, paid by advertising. Not 1 cent came out of anybody's council's pocket for those things. We produced tour planners' handbooks for coach companies. We produced special interest brochures. Every village, as Steve refers to, Ulmarra had its own brochure, Glenray had its own brochure, every little village, every spot. Shipwrecks of the Clarence, Birdwatcher's Guide. I actually got one. I conned my way into the Calypso Caravan Park where there was a council employee and asked for some information. And I was given a Birdwatcher's Guide that was stamped 2001 and had, for further information, the old phone number of the Tourist Information Centre and the phone number of the chief of the birdwatchers who had passed away. And what do we get in front of it, instead of it? We get a website that's done very poorly. We need that, but we need it to work properly. We've got these touchscreen hubs. Have you ever tried to ask a question from a touchscreen? Have you ever tried to print anything out? Not every visitor needs to go to a visitor information centre. Our brochures, our material was sent out to every caravan park, every motel, etc. No point in expecting people to go from Iluka to South Grafton to get a brochure. They were available everywhere, and they should be still available. And we really have a lot of work to do, and it's part of the economic development unit. Somebody said earlier, council had no business. Had no responsibility in business. What on earth does the Economic Development Unit do? Nobody knows.
All right, thank you, Bill. Okay, we've got an audience member who wants to say.
If you drive in from the casino, take a look at the Welcome to Grafton, Welcome to the Clarence Valley sign. If you drive in from Coffs Harbour on the back road, have a look at the sign, Welcome to Clarence Valley. If you drive in from Armadale, have a look at the sign. They've been wrecked for the last 4 or 5 years, and they're just a piece of steel sitting there rusting away. And that reflects the whole of the Clarence Valley and the councillors that we've just had. Thank you very much.
So I guess we're looking now, talking about the amenity of entrances to the cities and how, and that obviously is part of tourism. Warren Lang.
Look, I'll just go quickly back to the information centres. Most of these information centres around Australia, which I've been to many, are all profitable. It's a hub. It's profitable. It's cultural, the arts. They take a percentage for the bookings for the accommodation quarters. People run interstate tours, regional tours from these places, and it's profitable. So it's quite simple. I mean, for business interest and business investment, and particularly for Grafton with the bypass going past, it is a centre ideally suited for that type of, infrastructure. So it's as plain as day.
Bill, can
Thank
I
you.
quickly add on that?
Okay.
Something very important.
Yeah, you are. You've spoken the most out of everyone this evening.
Well, what Warren's saying is true. And the South Grafton Visitor Information Centre was profitable. Who paid for it? The business community paid for it. Back in 1989, the council's adopted a special rate levy, not applied to residents, not applied to pensioners, not applied to farmers, but commercially zoned property. And it's worth over 250 grand a year. There's no visitor information centre, it goes into the general fund.
Okay.
They steal it.
So it's something to consider if visitor information centre is going to sway your vote. Now, did you want to speak, Peter?
Yes, it
Peter
is.
Hanson.
The entrance into Maclean, we have a large sign saying where the industrial estate is, and it leads on to now a no-through road, going up over Hillcrest and down. Traffic, I've seen 4 cars while I've been walking the bicycle up there because the signage has been inadequate. The council, there's a blockage, there's a clog in there somewhere.
Okay. We'll go to Jeff Smith.
This is one of my pet hates and loves. Look, as I said before, council does a lot of good stuff. The parks and gardens, absolutely immaculate. But the signs, the one at Glenera, I actually put on my Facebook page. It's sort of 45-degree angle, and it's absolutely putrid. It'd be better off removed. There's a sign on the corner here that I look at all day from my shop, and it says 1983 Tidy Town Grafton. It's actually peeling off and rusted and decayed. It's time to pull the thing down, or either take it to the tip or give it to the Historic Society. The day of the 1983 Tidy Town's over. Let's just remove some of this stuff. And while we're at it, can we get a coat of paint on the Sea Park toilets? We've had thousands of visitors looking at the Illuminate. And if anyone wanted to use the men's toilet, it's a literary fantasy in there, and it's absolutely obscene. A 10-minute job with a roller. It's just those little details, and we're just not getting it right.
All right, running hot over here. Righto, so Steve Pickering next.
Okay, I've just got a comment regarding the entrance to the Clarence Valley. So there are probably some bad signs around the place, but what I'd like to point out is the fact that I worked with the Department of Transport, RMS, and also Clarence Valley Council during the construction of the M1 motorway. So anyone that's approaching the Clarence Valley from the south or the north will actually see signs dedicated to Ulmarra. There are dedicated Ulmarra exit signs, as well as dedicated Ulmarra historic village signs. And that's because I worked with the Department of Transport, RMS, and also the Clarence Valley Council to ensure that those signs were erected to make sure that the visitors kept coming through the Clarence Valley and stopping in at Ulmarra. And if I can do that for a little village like Ulmarra, imagine what I can do for the entire Clarence Valley.
We'll take one more response on this particular topic from Phil Belletti.
Okay. I've been fighting as part of the Chamber of Commerce. I mean, we've got this wonderful service station that's dilapidated. I've been ad nauseum gone through to council about what's happening with it, and everything gets pushed by the bureaucrats. Now, I'm going to ask the councillors exactly who the hell runs the council? Is it the councillors or the bureaucrats? If it's the bureaucrats, why are we elected? What are we doing? We're not acting like a business. We're not acting like a corporate. We are just being, and I've seen, and I've been there and supporting a number of councillors, and the bureaucrats seem to be just taking control and then bamboozling people about what they should and shouldn't do. Now, if I get elected, it's actually scaring me now, because if we have no voice, we're just sort of like tick and flick. Now, that's ridiculous, but we need to have change, and we need to make sure that the bureaucrats, and we are the ones that elect the general manager. That's critical. Culture starts at the top.
Okay. I've got the pressure on both sides of me here for the response from one of the current councillors.
It's been interesting listening to the candidates, and I really commend you that you're standing up, but you are in for a very big culture shock yourself. The roles and responsibilities of a councillor are nothing like what you think you can do. You can't go out and paint the toilet or even order somebody to paint the toilet or change the signs. How it works in New South Wales, we're the governing body, sure, but we only employ one person, that's the general manager. We're not even supposed to talk to the staff under that. So we can only direct him. We can only direct him through a resolution. We can't direct him as an individual councillor, although the Mayor has oversight. Now, there's a thing called the Integrated Planning and Reporting, which is a structural framework that the government, New South Wales Government, makes us use. And it starts off with a community strategic plan, 10-year plan, and the community contribute to all of the things in that 10-year plan. Then the next one down is a delivery program, and it's usually a 4-year cycle, which is the same as your term. Then you have your budgets to actually do those delivery things that are on there. That's how it works. We don't direct fixing potholes, toilets, all of those things. I wish we could, but we can't, and you'll soon find out, and you're going to get bloody frustrated.
And Greg as well.
Yeah, look, the last 5 years and 3 months has been difficult for the councillors to, because there was a divided council, it allowed the staff basically to have more power than they should, and that I was happy with. But that if we get a council now that works together as a team, we're not going to agree on everything, but generally as a team that we want to see the progress and the reform, I think that will solve some of these problems. Councillors will take back the reins that we should have.
If we have the numbers.
If we've got the numbers, but you know, I'm confident with the candidates we've got here. I haven't found any of the candidates here that wouldn't want that, I believe. You know, I can't speak for them, but I do believe we've got a great opportunity here to change that. It is up. A lot of councils are run by the General Manager and the senior staff, but I believe we will have the ability after the election to take back control and work with the General Manager and the Executive in the way it should be.
All right. Right, so we might just change the subject altogether now. That was a bit of a slog there. Everyone happy for a couple more questions? All righto. So firstly, many people have been following the Clarence Valley Council Meet the Candidates Facebook group created by former Deputy Mayor Craig Howe. Craig was unable to attend this evening due to his commitments as a New South Wales Schools delegate to Junior New South Wales Rugby Union. But he did give me his blessing to ask some questions from his page. And this one comes from Helen Robertson. Whose name might sound familiar to some of the councillors. Are you prepared to take a stand against DAs that are not supported by adequate access to resources such as open spaces, public amenities, infrastructure, public transport, medical services and shopping centres? Perhaps we hear from one of our new candidates firstly. Warren Lang.
Look, with any development application, it's got to be supported by quality research and environmental impact assessments, and it's got to be quality control, or what we want is quality infrastructure. And you've got to have the services to support that, but it's all backed up with adequate research or appropriate research and knowledgeable people. I don't like the word expert, but those who are knowledgeable and qualified in areas that are the main impacts to that development. So I'm happy to support the development that's supported by appropriate research and by qualified people.
All right. And Peter Johnston?
I'm an engineer, so I look at plans and I can visualise things in 3D. And I think what I would really want to do is imagine the plans that come before me, the development ones, and think, is this where I would really like to live? I'm thinking about where the parks are going to be. Are my children going to be safe walking to school or getting to the bus? Is there going to be access, easy access to the shops and those sort of things? And I think that's what we should be looking at, thinking, is this somewhere where I would really want to live? And if it isn't, then we need to look at it again. Because the developers are not there for the long term or even the medium term. They're there to get the short term, to get the profits, and then to move out. Get people to move in, but not to look at the long-term thing. And as a council, that's what we've got to think about. We've got to think about where that community is going to be in 20 to 30 years' time. And we've got to be able to look ahead for that.
All right. And Deborah Novak, and then we'll move to the next question after that.
So just in regards to DAs, they are very aspirational comments, but the reality of it is when a DA comes before council, it can be either approved by delegated authority, which is the general manager, or it comes before council for a resolution, and it's all a numbers game. And those numbers are 5, 4 or 9. So 5, 4 or 4 against. So Councillor Clancy spoke about his professional qualifications, and one of the things he did bring to the council there was to educate a lot of the councillors around environmental aspects. And even if you don't win the numbers, what you do is you can have a platform to actually educate the rest of us about what your professional standards are.
All right. And on significant developments, is it time to start serious planning on a second entrance to Yamba? And is the current plan for its location adequate? I know Karen has views on this. We'll go for Steve Pickering first.
I'll just go quickly on this. Yes, we need to start looking at a plan, and once we've got a plan, Yamba's going to need a second entrance at some stage, and we just need to start the ball rolling.
And Karen first.
Okay, thank you. Yes, the plans are there. The land, a lot of the land has been purchased. There's still a little link that hasn't been, but it's not a short-term thing. It's been going on for at least 20 years that I'm aware of, and longer. It's going to cost a lot of money. There's money in the budget for some investigations of $150,000 that's been there for a couple of years, and it's shameful that that resolution hasn't happened. But my thinking is that bypass starts on the western side of the Oyster Channel Bridge. You're in Yamba. We really need to be more ambitious and look for another road in right from the highway. Or at least lift the road up so it doesn't get blocked and cut off, and we can't get people out to services such as hospitals. So there's a lot of work to do there, but you are looking at possibly $100 million to do that, because it's probably going to need to be an up-in-the-air road over land, like you can see on the highways. There's a lot of land bridges there, and because of the terrain along there, and there's some pretty orchids in one section and some other things that I'm sure Councillor Clancy will talk about. So there are certainly some constraints, but we do need to do something and start thinking about the future.
Okay, firstly, Deborah Novak, did you still want to speak? Yes, you're fine. Greg Clancy.
Yeah, thank you. Look, I'm really keen to not give people false hopes. Now, people want to reopen the Nimboida power station. It's not going to happen, you know. You can argue with me, you can say you don't like what I'm saying, and you can say you don't like me. That's fine. But the fact is, it's not going to happen. Same thing with the Yamba bypass. The actual cost and the environmental impact is just so great. But what we have been, at a workshop, we have been briefed on this, and what we have been told is that we should be looking at ways of improving the existing Yamba road. And there may be opportunities there for that. I think that's much more realistic. Let's be realistic. Let's not live in pie-in-the-sky land. It's, you know, I've done work on the remnants of the Yamba bypass proposed area, and it is full of threatened species. If we were to knock all that down, which we shouldn't, because that's going to affect the actual natural environment around Yamba, we would have to be paying large amounts of money as compensation for that. So there's a big cost there. So personally, I don't believe it will ever happen. I think we need to be looking at the existing Yamba road and trying to improve that. And whether there was ever money to bring the road from the highway in, you know, if you really want to make Yamba more accessible, you'd have to do that. But at the moment, the flooding of the Yamba road and the Iluka road are real issues.
Okay. All right. Probably just might make this one more question, and then we might try to wrap things up. So, does the Clarence Valley have a serious case of NIMBY syndrome, short for not in my backyard, and should we be doing more to support national progress on industries such as solar farming, mining and water sharing? Anyone like to speak first on that?
Well, I definitely will.
Read it out again. Should we be doing more to support national progress on industries such as solar farming, mining and water sharing? They have to happen somewhere, but we say they can't happen here. All right, Deborah Novak.
Some comments coming from out the back there. Look, you know, those things that you've spoken about already, so mining and solar farming, they're a state interest, right? And but I believe our community, and the solar farm has just come before council as a petition as well. Our community should still have a say in how they want their place to look like, and because they live here. And the same with mining as well, because mining has threatened the river before in 1974. And I believe that the voice of the community should still be heard, and it shouldn't come at the expense of state government.
Okay. Yes, Greg. I didn't catch anyone out keen to push all those agendas.
There's nothing wrong with being a NIMBY when you live in the Clarence Valley. This valley is just so important to be preserved in its natural state as much as possible. We've damaged it. We've cleared nearly 90%, maybe 95% of the floodplain vegetation. We've put in agriculture and sugarcane and everything like that. So it's not pristine. But what we've got left after all this development is still worth fighting for. It's so significant, and it's important, as we said earlier, to the industries. But we are also in an area called the Macleay-McPherson overlap, which is in northern New South Wales and southern Queensland, and it's the floras and faunas of the southern temperate areas overlap with the floras and faunas of the northern Teresian areas. That makes this area, this northeast New South Wales, southeast Queensland, very, very special. We have more biodiversity in this area in a lot of groups than in the wet tropics, and the wet tropics are very, very biodiverse. So it is right to be NIMBY if you've got the natural resources, the natural environment and the community that we have here.
All right. Righto, well thanks very much. Bill Day, your last comment here.
I was just going to ask, why do we want these industries? You just mentioned 3 industries. And why? What are they? We have industry, we have businesses. Let's look after the local businesses and value add those. Why are we always looking for this golden solution that it creates more problems than it solves?
Okay, so...
Can we ask the public their opinion on this as well? Seeing that there's 10,000 signatures on one, can we ask the opinion of...
All right, does someone from the public want to speak on this issue?
Well, I would like to say that, you know, we have a beautiful valley, but we've got a lot of area around here, and we need businesses here, we need something here. We need it to find jobs for our youth. Back in the early 60s, I remember when we had a bad downturn, we lost about 78% of our youth, which didn't come back. We've got a lot of old people. Trouble is, old people have got to be looked after, but they don't spend money, and they just exist. Where young people, they spend money and help the place to grow. For God's sake, if we don't grow, we'll be non-existent here.
And that was our final word from Robin Gipp. And just to finish that wrap up, I think we'll just give everyone one last chance to just tell the voters why they should vote for them. And we'll just go around the table, starting firstly with Don Scott.
I'd like to be a councillor to help in the valley, and that's basically it, to help people in the valley.
I want to build a council that's accountable and transparent, and most of all, a council that you can trust.
I want to be part of a council that's innovative, has responsible spending and responsible decision making.
During the last term, I've tried to be a voice of reason and common sense on the council, not sort of aligned with either of the two groups. I try and keep an open mind and look at all the information. almost dispassionately and then make a decision. And I speak my mind in council. And if people like my approach, they'll vote for me. If not, they'll vote for someone else.
Yeah, I'll echo some of Bill's comments there that we've got a council that has lost a lot of trust. I want to be part of a team that helps to rebuild that trust. It's going to take a long time. I want to see accountability. I want to see transparency. And within council and indeed within staff and the way it interacts with the general public is a return of respect and dignity.
So my name's Alison Waits, as we already know, so vote me and I'll make sure that I work for you, the whole community, in growing jobs and making a change for our future. Thank you.
Yeah, I support generally what the other candidates have said, particularly about the reform and making council more accountable and friendly to the public. I've been on council for the last 5 years, 3 months, and I'm proud of my record despite the fact that it was a very difficult time for me personally. I was bullied. I didn't have a lot of support on a lot of issues, but I'm back, hopefully to be re-elected and hopefully to continue the work that I've started, and I want to continue looking after the environment and protecting our lifestyle and particularly looking after the river and caring for the people. Thank you.
Thank you. I've decided to re-stand because there's a lot of unfinished business. I believe I've got a good reputation of standing up for my community and being a voice for them when no one else is listening. I have been very disappointed with this last term. I have lost trust in some of our senior staff, and I know that's a terrible thing to admit, but it's the truth. And it is correct, it's hard to build back trust, but I want to be part of a new council, where we return to serving our community. That's what the council is for. We are here for the community and we are to serve, and that's what leadership is about. And I think some leaders forget that. We are here for you and no one else. We need to get back the confidence of our community. I don't believe we've lost the confidence of everyone. I don't think it's as bad as some think. I know they've had personal experiences. There are good things in there. We've got some amazing staff. And I just think they deserve a better go as well. And it's sad to hear John tell us about that survey. And we need a leadership team now that will work together as a team and not be divided. Because when you're divided and you're on the side that the numbers are low, you can't do anything really. So please consider voting me back in, because it will be my pleasure to continue standing up for you. Thank you.
We've got to elect a team of 9 people to lead this Clarence Valley for the next 2.5 years. And I'm looking around me at the other candidates here and I can see a great group of people. But we need to elect a team with a variety of skills and abilities. And as you look at your team sheet, think about me. I'm a mathematician, engineer and scientist, and I bring skills and abilities that quite a few of the others here don't have. So please make me part of your team. In the sport I play, the first name on the team sheet is the goalkeeper. I'm actually a goalkeeper. So please consider putting me first. Thank you.
I work really hard for my community, and I've pulled my community together really successfully with a vision for the future, and I'd like to expand on that and take it throughout the entire Clarence Valley. I want to see a council that's accountable and transparent. I want to see a council that has true leadership, a council that people can look up to rather than look down to. I want to see a council that's progressive, responsible, and I want to see a council that respects ratepayers' money and spends it in targeted, sensible ways. So remember, vote 1, Steve Pickering.
Wow, that's a lot of hard acts to follow. Really very inspiring coming, all those words. I'm not going to say vote 1, Deborah Novak. I'm going to say please vote, because I don't want you to give up on your council and I don't want you to give up on democracy, because your vote matters and we want to hear from you. And It's really important that you understand that we, when you vote for us, that we do represent you, our community. And I really don't want you to give up on us, because that's what I hear probably the most out of my 5 years. People have given up. Please don't give up. Just vote. At least vote for 9 of us.
I'd like to see a shared vision of all the councillors. I'd like the council to take back control of the entire valley. We need to make sure that we are not second-class citizens when it comes to bureaucrats. We need to manage development. We need to manage our environment. We need to juggle a lot of things. But at the end of the day, we need to have a team here, and I think we've got a very good group of candidates, outstanding actually. So we need to make sure that when you're electing, you're electing leaders, and leaders that want to share and understand the whole valley, because everyone comes from their own perspective, but we need to make sure that we listen to people like the John Hagars of the world, who's probably forgotten more stuff about the council and how it operates. So we need to make sure that we listen to you guys and get it right this time.
I've always worked in a team environment, and I think that there's a good selection of candidates here. It's important that you vote for at least 5 for your vote to be formal, and that's most important. And yeah, look, just be vocal and be out there and select who you think's best to represent the community. Transparency, honesty, integrity, we've all talked about that, and hopefully we get that with the new councillors. Thank you.
I feel a sense of responsibility to make a greater contribution in developing on community values. I hope everyone enjoys a sense of involvement and votes. I have another string by way of contributing in the community. I'm working on development of small boats, kayaks and canoes for personal building. So I'm looking at a small boat building school, which I think will greatly enhance the enjoyment of the river as a natural environment rather than merely a thing to motor around on and plug fish from. Thanks. All the best in the future, Clarence.
Okay. Right. Well, that's all we have time for. So thank you to all the candidates for making your time available here with us tonight. I don't think I'm any closer to knowing who I'm going to vote for after that, because there's more than 9 worthy candidates, I think. But yeah, it's certainly, it is sending a positive feeling about the future, that we can, a fresh change as council needs, and it looks like that's what it's going to get. So, and also thank you to everyone else who made the effort to come down here tonight. And it turned out there was no rain interruptions, so it's been good. Thank you to those watching on clarencemedia.com.au and the various community groups who have shared the link to the candidates Q&A live forum, designed to help voters make an informed choice at the polls on December 4. Don't forget, the full recording of this 2-hour event will still be available between now and Election Day on Saturday, December the 4th, so tell your friends. My name is Bill North. Clarence Media is a collaboration between myself and Emma Ochola. He's the man behind the camera. Thanks also to Jared, Leah, Rani and Rob, and also Shan, who's not here this evening. This has been Clarence Media's inaugural live stream event. Clarence Media is open for trading. We can produce your event, whether it's a band, performance, seminars, sport, forums, or just general exposure. It is great to have the freedom to hold live events again. It's more than 2 years since this stage last got a decent workout for the 2019 Jacaranda Festival. We want to do more events like this, but we can't do it without your support. And one way you can support us is by going to our homepage, www.clarencemedia.com.au. On the right-hand side is an orange icon which says Support Clarence Media. If you feel you've gotten something out of tonight, any value whatsoever, this was free. You didn't have to pay to watch and listen to the candidates speak, an opportunity that otherwise would not have been available had Clarence Media not formed. Access in your living room that never previously has been available. You're welcome to offer a small token of goodwill and help to Clarence Media grow. We'd be grateful. Ultimately, we'd like to be printing again, in the long term, but that can't happen without significant investment from this community. So ultimately, you'll decide whether Clarence Media can lend its expertise to a print product once again. The quicker we grow, the quicker we can better serve the community. So thank you. Our next event that we will be covering is the Clarence Valley Sports Awards at Bolo Sport and Leisure in Yamba on Saturday, February the 5th. Like this election, they were rescheduled from earlier this month. But unlike the Jacker Festival, in 2020, the awards did go ahead. They persevered. In fact, they were pretty much the first post-COVID event in the Clarence. Now we're at COVID 2.0, post-COVID 2.0. We can't quite lay that claim, unfortunately. I think that belongs to Troy Casadale and Ian Moss. But they were supposed to be on this stage too, but they were moved across the road to the Saracen Theatre. And just a quick shout out to the Sports Awards. There's only a week left to nominate for those, which recognise the outstanding sporting achievements of Clarence Valley residents. It certainly echoes the old Dex Sports Star, which people would be familiar with, but was its own creation in 2016 thanks to Craig Howe. And it includes the Max Godby Award. Nominations are being accepted for all the main awards, including the Grafton Shoppo Sportsperson of the Month. Just go to Clarence Valley Sports Awards Facebook page for more details. Rugby League presenter Katie Brown will once again present the awards, or I think she's now returned to Channel 7. A couple of NRL fellas with local links are being lined up, and Surf Lifesaving Australia will have a presence as well. It will be the first without McLean Show and rodeo identity Bruce Green, but I assure you he will have a presence on the evening, and tickets will be released soon. Once again, thank you for watching the Q&A Candidates Live Forum. Thank you to our sponsors, Liberty Service Station South Grafton, Loving Life FM, DM Timber Flooring and Yamba Tiles and Lights. Thank everybody for coming to South Grafton Progress Association. Thank you again to the candidates. Be sure to follow Clarence Media on Facebook to stay up to date with everything happening in this new media space. This is Will North signing out for Clarence Media. Have a good night.
My primary reason for running is a contributor to reform of the council. I think there's a great need for reform from my long experience in local government, some 58 years. Reform in the organisational structure, in the culture, in the attitude, in work practices, in service levels, across the board. Policies need to be reviewed, and this council could be, in my view, a whole lot better than it's been in recent times.
Look, there's reform is definitely needed. That doesn't mean that everything that council's done in the last 5 years wasn't good. There were some good things, some very good things. One of the things we haven't done well is communicate with the public. There is an image in council that we're not doing what the public wants, and I know that might only be a minority of people, but it's a significant minority. I don't think enough councillors actually communicated with the public. Only two of us, of the existing councillors, were actually on Facebook on a regular basis.
I tried to tell this council where they were going wrong in tourism. The Mayor asked me to prepare a written plan. I did a 10-point plan over many hours. Didn't even get acknowledged when I gave it to him. I then had a meeting with the acting general manager and the Mayor, and they said, "You obviously don't support council's policies on tourism." I said, "No, I don't." And they said, "Well, we'll agree to disagree. From now on, we will not answer any questions that you put to council staff about tourism." Now, that's pretty typical of how they treat anybody. The kindest thing you can do to anyone is give them constructive criticism. But Clarence Valley Council don't want to hear it.
just fair representation throughout the Clarence Valley. With my experience, and it's actually looking from the outside. So, look, I've only been here a couple of years, but generally looking from the outside, looking in, I can see where there's, a need for change, and I think that we can do things better. I think we can become more efficient, and across the board bring some life into it, and having the ability to contribute, I think, will be beneficial. But there are plenty of good candidates out there with some views, but I think that it is time for change, and looking forward to that opportunity.
Well, I think it's a very exciting time for us. For starters, with hopefully the end of COVID, the regulations now, we're at a new start. It's almost like it's a spring, and we're going to be restarting a lot of things and a lot of things to grow, and perhaps some things that weren't working so well we can leave alongside, and some new things that might be a new good idea, a new way to go forward, we can bring forward.
In this council, because it was so divided or polarised and sometimes dysfunctional, we had losses in there as well, and this is what I didn't like about this particular council. It was very adversarial. It was win at all costs. There was never any room for compromise as I saw it when I put compromise initiatives forward. And another big win, I think, for Yamba was stopping the push for 3 sets of traffic lights on Yamba Road. And
Bill, I'd like to see some council support a lot more projects in South Grafton. It seems like the poor relation to the Grafton area. In particular, like I was talking to you earlier about a skate park for South Grafton, and particularly probably situated down here at Beresford Park would be an ideal place for it. We see so many kids travelling the long distance over the bridge there to get to the skate park, which is a great facility for Grafton, but there's a huge need for something like that in South Grafton, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's like a microcosm of stuff that South Grafton needs that Grafton's got.
Yeah, I was concerned about the vision toward a future, a healthful region with a healthful river and a viable fishing industry, and I thought that there was a big blockage in the council that wasn't allowing any real anything but the idea that bulldozing things was employment, that was just a job was employment, whereas actually employment is a real product of schooling, an opportunity through there. This bullying in schools, that's a difficulty for many to actually get attached.
And I have been speaking to a lot of the local businesses on the main street. They would like a council that allows them to do more things. So to utilise the footpath, to be able to sit out there with the customers, with their eating and drinking, and also just be able to put some displays out there as well. And I think COVID has sort of pushed that where we want to be al fresco, sitting outside, also with our shopping and our clothes on the outside as well. Maybe do some more market stalls as well. But also, like Coffs Harbour's doing, they're building up. So they're putting apartment blocks above CBD and above businesses.
Yeah, look, let's start to be a proactive council, not reactive. And that's, I think, the biggest thing that, we can, try and do. If we can be proactive, we're going to be so much more, sustainable in that region.
Look, what I'm finding and talking around to people is there's a lack of trust with council at the moment. There's a lot of anger. And what I'd like to see is council gaining back that trust and being seen to work for the people and to look after the people and to respond to their needs. And it's going to take a while. It's going to take a few years. It's taken a few years to develop this trust and lack of trust. So I'd like to see a team of diversified people getting on there, the 9. And we all work together, we all listen to the residents, and we form policy and opinion and action to respond to those people and their needs, and to see council get back to the basics of why they exist. And there's areas where they're dabbling in or they've been in, and they've really, we'd be better off just focusing in on the nuts and bolts of it and get council to do what they're best at.
But some things that I would really like to see are, we already have a lot of tourists and visitors coming to the area, And I'd like to see those tourists and visitors spend more time in our rural areas rather than there seems to be a strong focus along the coast. I think that with the purchase of the Namboida Power Station, it gives us an opportunity to increase visitor numbers to the Namboida area through whitewater rafting, as well as heritage tours possibly, or a museum aspect through the power station, if it's not actually generating electricity. I'd like to see more attention brought to our smaller areas and villages. There's a lot of focus on our main capitals and Maclean, Yamba and Grafton.
I think there's a couple of issues. There's issues sitting with the Ombudsman at the moment that are not public, and that's, it has been publicly discussed within a council meeting, but there are some issues. There's not a full-blown investigation yet, but there are matters sitting with the Ombudsman, so that will be interesting to see what happens there. I think climate change and our food bowl here, the food bowl conversation and how we manage business and employment here is going to be the biggest thing to drive the economy, because at the end of the day we're moving into a new era of doing business, whether it's through the digital economy, but one of the steady influences for over 150 years has been the agri-food economy. So if we can really ramp up that conversation and spread that, that economic love further, so with the farmers, in manufacturers or, production, I think that will hold us in really good stead for the future.
They need to understand where we want to go and how we're going to get there. But they need to get off their backsides, dare I say it, and work for us and not work for everyone else. We need to be very insular in that regard and make sure that they understand that we're going to put the pressure on them, and whoever the new lot are coming in federally, we need to really hammer them. We need to make sure that they clearly understand that we're not going to sit back, and this is what the new councillors need to do. They all need to say, okay, every time they have a conversation, they need to say to the state and federal members that, this is about regional Australia, this is about putting us on the map, this is about putting jobs, not taking away from the big cities, but reinvesting in the regions. But in order to do that, we need a lot of infrastructure here, and I think that we've got the quality of people, we've got people that are accepting of development, and businesses are really, and private businesses are really key.
What's important to me as a councillor is transparency and accountability, and I think we've been lacking in that this last term, which upsets me a little, and I think we need to learn respect. Some of our community members are treated quite badly, and we're even banning some community members through our unreasonable complainants policy, and it actually upsets me greatly that they ring up to find out something and they haven't even put in a complaint, to be honest. They've just requested information that they're actually eligible to get under the GIPA Act, and we're not doing what we should do, and they're treated very badly, and that just upsets me. And I continue to fight for the community. I think we need to respect the community and remember why we're there. And leadership is about respect and serving the community.
My primary reason for running is I want to be a contributor to reform of the council. I think there's a great need for reform from my long experience in local government, some 58 years. Reform in the organisational structure, in the culture, in the attitude, in work practices, in service levels, across the board. Policies need to